Governor Newsom, wildfires have destroyed millions of acres of the state, displaced countless amounts of family. Do you take responsibility for any of this, and is there anything more you think you could have done?
Not really. I think these fires were very devastating. I think the full scope of what actually has happened, we're not there yet. Okay, these people's houses are just destroyed. People are suffering. People are sad. But we're Californians. We're going to push through. We're going to push through. And where we're going, the vision is 10 times bigger than anybody else can even imagine.
Former President Trump has recently criticized your leadership, saying that you failed California. What's your response to him, and what does the future of California look like?
To be honest with you, I try to block that rhetoric, because the words that come out of his mouth, all the words out of his lips, they don't mean anything to me. He needs to use these more, because the future of California is bright. It's so bright. When you really try to look at it, I mean, really, really look at how bright it is, you're going to need shades to live in California 24 hours a day.
Critics are saying that you're all hand gestures and no action. What's your response to that?
I think people are wrong. Okay, they need to wake up. I speak with passion. I speak with fire, no pun intended. And I feel if I use my hands a lot, people won't be focused on the lies that are coming out of my mouth, because I lie a lot. So I want to distract them with my hands.
Interesting. Wait.
What?
Where'd my gum go?
To be honest with you, I have no idea. Oh, would you look at that? You know what? This gum is just like California. It's sticky, it's resilient, and it'll bounce back.
You're a scumbag.
Thank you.
It's the Homeless Left with Matt Weinglass and co-host Jay Scott. Episode 79, The Empire Has No Clothes, with special guest Garland Nixon. And here's your host, Matt Weinglass.
Welcome everyone to the Homeless Left. We are back right now. We are rocking and rolling here. I want to make sure we have everything set up. Welcome. Let's make sure our settings are looking good here. Sometimes we have issues with StreamYard and the camera we're using here. Okay, I think we are good to go. Okay. Actually a little out of focus here. Let me fix that real quick here, and we'll get right to it. Here we go. Oops, we'll go back to that other one. Okay. Hold on real quick, guys. Just a little technical issue here. We'll be dealing with this. Hold on just a sec. Okay. Little behind the scenes action for you guys today. Okay. I think we are good. Okay. Welcome. Actually, I still got a little blurry issue here. Okay, I'm changing the setting here real quick. Okay. Let's bring that down there. Okay. There we go. Running all the tech today, guys. Running all the tech. A little brighter here. Okay. I think we're good. Okay. Welcome to the Homeless Left. Thank you guys all for joining us today. We're going to be joined with our co-host. We're calling him co-host, guest correspondent co-host, but Jay Scott's been awesome with us. He's been a regular, so we keep bringing him back when we can. So he'll be joining us in a little bit. And then later, our special guest for today is Garland Nixon. Can't wait to get talking with him about some of the politics and foreign policies going on right now in the new Trump administration. We're going to be talking about Trump's pushing Palestine, basically pushing Gaza out of Gaza. It's a ethnic cleansing, and he's looking to do that in Egypt and Jordan. There's a Ukraine full war audit coming. We're going to look at that and what Scott Ritter's been talking about as far as NATO being finished. We want to get into the RFK Jr. stuff, because tomorrow there's going to be a big hearing. This is huge. This is the HHS confirmation hearing, and Bernie Sanders has been leading the charge against RFK Jr. So we're going to get into some of that. A real fake news update. We have Trump coming to LA Newsom. He's taken on Newsom and Bass. It's pretty incredible what's happening here, along with a news story we just saw, and we're going to show that to you guys in a second here. The Cal exit, CAL exit. It's trending for some reason, and it's pretty legit. There's actually a push for this. We're going to look into that as well. And then we're also getting into some of the AI battles going on. DeepSeek, if you guys haven't heard of that, Jay Scott's going to talk to us more about that one, and the coming digital dollar and what we can do about that and to stop that. Oh, and then we have a Selena Gomez story this week in HOLLYWOKE. So we got a jam-packed show for you guys today. And to remind you, we're here now twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern. We're now streaming live on Rumble and Twitter. Also, our brand new YouTube channel. We're still calling it our burner channel. We have to, because they got rid of our last one. We actually don't exist anymore on YouTube as far as they know. We don't exist as the homeless left. It was terminated for having these type of discussions right now. This is why they don't like us. We've been made an example of us because we talk about, we challenge Big Pharma. We challenge the U.S. military industrial complex, the Western war machine, and Israel and all that stuff. You can't have critique on any of that, or they will make an example of you. So check out our new channel when you get a chance. If you guys haven't heard yet, we're on YouTube now. It's a burner channel, THL Presents. Hopefully they don't find us, and we can continue the conversations on multiple platforms, not just here on Rumble and on X, but we do appreciate you guys supporting us here on those channels, because we haven't been censored. We've been shadow banned a bit. We've been kind of, I guess you could say the surveillance machine is definitely in play when we talk about X and we talk about Rumble, but at least they don't turn our feed off. We can have the conversation. So we do appreciate that. Don't forget to support us on locals as well. Really, really appreciate all of that. Now, before we get started, just a reminder to all you guys that watch us regularly, or if you're just tuning into us for the first time, we welcome all of you guys with open arms. Anyone who's feeling uneasy about the state of politics right now, our economy, our society over the last few years, even over the last few months, it's been pretty wild. Anybody who feels like they can't ask questions right now, they can't have any critique of their party or their team or whatever you felt like you've been part of your whole life, and they kind of letting you down, and they're not letting you talk, they're not letting you call anything out. You get punished, you get beaten down on. And you're sick of that. You're sick of the game of tribalism. You're sick of the game of identity politics, the red team versus blue team. You're sick and tired of the hate and the division being sold to us every single day by the mainstream media. If you're sick and tired of being told to punch down at your neighbor, punch down at your friends and family, punch down at yourself if you have any problem. If you're sick of that and you're ready to start punching up, well, the homeless left is the place for you. We're homeless from the left. That's our story. You could be homeless from somewhere else, from the right, homeless from the middle, from the up, from the down, homeless upside down. It don't matter. We are all homeless together. Okay, let's get into the first story today. Cal exit. We just found this morning, guys. This is pretty wild. And here, being here in California, you guys know our story is that we are in LA, and LA is falling apart. That's why we started this show in the first place. So this Cal exit, we saw this hashtag come up, and believe me, the entertainment industry professionals here that we're around, they're the first to be championing this. So we're seeing this on all their Facebook pages right now. We're seeing all this excitement. They're so excited. We're gonna receive from the Union. We're done with America. It's done. It's been captured by Hitler, and Hitler's running the country now. So we're so excited to get out. Let's see the story reported. We just saw this, just came up today. Here we go.
The California secession movement is back in the spotlight.
The California Secretary of State just announced an initiative for the November 2028 ballot asking whether California should be its own country is cleared to start gathering signatures.
We spoke to the founder of Cal Exit. Take a listen.
The other thing the initiative does is it places a vote in the future on the ballot saying, do you want to be independent from America, basically. That's not legally binding. Doesn't mean that it makes it happen.
If the measure makes it to the ballot and is approved by voters, it would form a commission to report on the viability of California as its own country and potentially get the process moving. The Cal Exit group had tried this back in 2016, but they believe this time results will be different.
They pointed out that they have tried this before. They tried this in 2016. Clearly, this is just their bitching and moaning session about losing the election. 2016, I thought it couldn't get any worse than that. They said, you know, Russia stole our election. Bernie bros are the reason. All the people that were sexist against Hillary, they were furious. And Hillary even wrote a book about, you know, what happened. And I mean, just a joke, just a complete joke. Never, ever, ever willing to take responsibility. Now, fast forward 8 years, it's happened again. They're looking to do this again. And again, this is California. This is the epicenter of the vote blue no matter who mindset. The tribe. We talk about tribalism. They cannot. They are so obsessed. You guys heard the term living rent-free in someone's head. They're living rent-free in Trump's head. And it's actually worse than it was in 2016. And now they're talking about they actually have the paperwork together to get the signatures. This might go the distance as far as getting on a ballot. Now, I cannot tell. I'm going to predict right now. There's no way this is going to get through all the red tape. There's no way. But they are going to make an impact. They're going to make themselves heard, and they're probably going to get the signatures for this to at least get to the next stage. But I don't see it happening. Remember, these guys are the same. We're the same people here in California that complain about this the Confederate flag, rightfully so. Confederate flags being up in red states, and this idea that they want to succeed also, and the idea that it's this very nefarious reasoning behind getting out of the country when it's a red state doing it. They're ready to wag their finger at anyone suggesting that in Texas or any of the other states, or even say good riddance, get out of our country. So we've seen that before, but then it's like you turn it around and like, oh, now it's a noble thing to do. Let's get out of the union. Never gonna fly. Never gonna fly. Let's just take a look at why California specifically is extra bum hurt about this election. Because we just had the California fires and we're still in the middle of them. You guys have been watching the show. We've been covering these very in detail, very up close. We've been on the scene. We've been on the ground covering the fires out in Altadena, in the Palisades. We have a documentary crew coming out. We're going to be working with so you guys even understand more that we're not done with this story. Guess who else went on the ground here? That was Trump. Trump on his second day in office. Are you effing kidding me? He showed up here. Now, I get it. People are furious that they think Hitler got into office. Oh, you're going to come to our state. You're going to start, waving your finger at our mayor, Karen Bass, and our governor, Gavin Newsom. Yeah, the hell he is, because our leadership in this state has let us down 100%. We know they've let us down. There's no other way around it. So when we see the failings, and you guys saw that opening too, the opening of the show, we're ready to we're mocking Gavin Newsom for just being all over the place and just kind of this theater guy that doesn't really have an answer to any of these questions. But there really is a corruption element here. I mean, we're talking about canceling all of people's insurances through State Farm. We're talking about changing the zoning laws of all the residents here so they can't even build back single unit family housing. He's doing that right now. That is happening. We knew that the water wasn't working. We knew that the Palisades reservoir was completely bone dry. We know that the $17 million taken out of the firefighters budget that Karen Bass initiated. We knew that she had nothing to say when she first landed back in California in a trip from Africa. We know that she had nothing to say. Why? It wasn't because she's brain dead. It's because her handlers were telling her not to talk. So there's a lot of corruption, a lot of shadiness. Let's take a look a little bit at what happened when Trump came here and called Karen Bass out. This was last week. And then I'm going to show you a follow-up underneath it. This was posted today on Twitter to show you what bunch of liars our leadership here is in California. And instead of getting furious at the liars in our state that run our state, our residents here are too busy trying to sign a petition for a Cal exit. Watch what Trump does when he calls her out, how she lies back to him about residents not, she's saying, oh no, they'll be able to go back to their property. The people that lost their homes, they'll be able to go back to the property. Trump's like, no, they're not. You're not letting them back. She's like, oh, it'll just be a week. Let's watch her double down on that and then see what happens when a week passes and people can't actually get back into their homes. So Trump is calling this out and there's no answer for it. Watch this.
People. You'll be in that thing tonight, throwing the stuff away, and your site it'll look perfect within 24 hours, and that's what he wants to do. He doesn't want to wait around for 7 months till the city hires some demolition contract that's going to charge him $25,000 to do his lot. Yeah. I think you have emergency powers just like I do, and I'm exercising my emergency powers. You have to exercise them also.
I did exercise them. Well, yes, but you know that you will be able to go back soon.
Mr. President.
We think within a week.
That's a long time, a week. I'll be honest. To me, everyone's standing in front of their house. They want to go to work, and they're not allowed to do it.
And the most important thing is for people to be safe.
They're safe. They're safe. You know what? They're not safe. They're not safe now. They're going to be much safer. A week is actually a long time, the way I look at it. I watched hundreds of people standing in front of their lots, and they're not allowed to go in. It's all burned. It's gone. It's done. Nothing's going to happen to it. It's not going to.
Oh, Trump, why do you have to come into our state and make things so political? Why can't you let her just lie to us and just so we could just, do our thing? Why do you have to come here and call out this crap? Come on, Trump. Don't make it political. See, that's the logic. That's the illogic of the people here right now. They think this is political when you can argue politics for anything that a president does or anything any politically elected leader does is political. But what he's doing is he's calling out the BS, the corruption in our state. Why does it take more than a week? A week is too long. A week is too long. Why can't people go back to their houses? Keep watching.
Not burn anymore. There's nothing to burn. There's almost nothing to burn. And they want to go in. The people are all over the place. They're standing, and they say, why aren't you going in? We're trying to get a permit. And the permit's going to take them, everybody said 18 months. You said 18 months. You said 18 months.
And then after that, you're able to just go right in.
But why can't I just go now?
That's just my order.
How long is the orange pass thing?
I got to. I'm not sure if there's an expiration date or anything.
No, but there's a line.
I fully understand that, sir, but there's rules and protocols we got to follow.
So it's January 27th?
Yes, sir.
I haven't been able to get to my house.
Yes, sir.
For 20 days.
I fully understand that.
And it's right down there. It's about 1 minute over there.
Yes, sir.
And here's my address.
Yeah, I fully understand that.
So you want me to go wait in line for 2 hours?
Sir,
that's what they're told. That's what we're told to advise, sir. You have to go down to where he's telling you, to zone 3, and then you get the pass. Once you get the pass, you're able to come up.
But there's like a mile wait to get into zone 3.
I understand, because there's all the people that are trying to get the passes. But that's what in order for you to get by, past this checkpoint, you need to get that pass.
Right, but President Trump and Mayor Bass said that we could go.
Trust me, I understand. I'm just telling you what we were advised by our command posts. They're telling you the same thing. They were advised by their command posts. I'm not giving you guys a hard time. No, I know.
I appreciate your service.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. We greatly appreciate it, but...
Okay, so look, no one thinks that, Trump or anyone can just come here, snap their fingers, wave a magic wand, everything's going to be okay. But the point is that he said the stuff out loud. That he came here, he at least acted presidential. And the part I don't want to skip over was that he said that you have to put your power in motion. You can't just talk the talk. You have to actually make the moves. And here's a guy who did how many countless executive orders in the first 48 hours of his presidency. And we've broken some of them down. Some of them are pretty good. Some of them are not so good. We can take them case by case. We can do that because we look at the world with non-tribal goggles on. We take those off. We can use critical thinking skills and say what kind of a policy is making sense, what isn't. But make no mistake, this guy is at least acting presidential. He's arriving to the scene of a crime, and he's investigating it, and he's calling out bullshit when he sees it, which is our mayor lying and cheating and hiding from people, not even opening her mouth when she first had an opportunity to tell people it's going to be okay. She couldn't even open her mouth because her handlers did not let her. And Gavin Newsom lying out through his teeth constantly. We've been covering that on the show. So look, again, it's not going to be solved overnight. We still have a lot of work to do here in the state, but we do appreciate Trump at least acting presidential. And you know what? At least the Republicans, I'm not a Republican. I don't know if you guys know I'm not. We're not anywhere near aligned with MAGA and the red, party. But I'll tell you this, at least they do the thing that they campaign on. He campaigned on the border. He said, this is a border emergency. He declares it a state of emergency. What happens when a Democrat runs on climate or runs on abortion rights? Guess what? They don't do anything when they get in office. You don't really get a climate emergency declared. You don't get you don't go in and codify Roe v. Wade, which would have actually solved the women's rights issue. You could do that. They don't do it because they want to hold the issues over the head of the people, and they don't really believe in those issues. I actually do believe that the Republicans are more prone to actually believe the things that they're part of. They're not necessarily just posturizing. They're actually believing these things. They actually believe there's a problem at the border, and there really is. And that should not be a left-right issue either. We should look at it and say, how do we fix this problem? So we do, can call out when Trump gets something right. So we're happy he came here. So very good, he did that. We're going to keep an eye on the fires. Obviously, we're not done here. They're still not fully contained. And we're going to get to the bottom of what actually happened here and who knew about it, and why did it feel like it was deliberate, and why is everybody that lives here think the most important thing to do is to sign a petition to get California out of the union? Talk about bad priorities. All right, I think we are going to do right now. By the way, guys, thanks for joining the show. I appreciate. I see some of the latecomers, and we got some more, way more show here coming here for you guys in a second here. You know what? Let's go ahead and do a real fake news update before we bring in Jay, because I want to cover CNN's coverage of Trump and Gaza. So let's see how that looks. How that's looking this week now that we have a new president. Let's see how the media narrative changes when we change presidents. Let's see the crimes against humanity, the genocide we've been funding in Gaza. Let's see how they change, how they report on it. So here we go. It's time for a real fake news update. Here we go. It's time for a real fake news update, not brought to you by Pfizer. Let's see what's going on in the Trump-Gaza situation. Now, we know that Trump is talking about a land grab. That's what he says. Caitlin Johnstone had put out an incredible tweet about it, and Tim Foley did the narration. It's pretty phenomenal. We covered that on Truthwire, actually, with Craig and Fee the other day. But I want to look at, this part concerns me more as far as how CNN is covering this. So let's play CNN's coverage of Trump saying the quiet part out loud, basically that Gaza is a real estate land grab and we got to get the Palestinians out of there, which is AKA that's called ethnic cleansing. Okay, let's see CNN's coverage.
Your campaign had an ad showing.
Wrong clip. Here we go. CNN's coverage on Trump and Gaza.
Let's also just remind everyone what Donald Trump has said about this in the past. So now in this moment, as president, he's saying he wants to clean it out. Here's what he said back on October 7th, 2024, during the campaign.
It could be better than Monaco. It has the best location in the Middle East, the best water, the best everything. It is the best. I've said it for years. When I've been there, and it's rough. It's a rough place before all of the attacks and before back and forth. What's happened over the last couple of years, and I said, "Wow, look at this." They never took advantage of it. As a developer, it could be the most beautiful place. The weather, the water, the whole thing, the climate. It could be so beautiful. It could be the best thing in the Middle East.
It could be the best thing in the Middle East, he says. Stephen Collins, and we can show you a little bit of this is some CNN footage of what northern Gaza looks like now. And of course, this is what we're also seeing these live pictures. These are not live. This is tape from January 19th. People are now making their way back. You can see the live on the right. These people are coming back to what is left of their homes. As you can see, it is not the place that they departed.
Right, and I think the juxtaposition between that comment and those pictures gets to why this won't work, because you just have to think about the humanity of this. And if you go to Gaza, even before the conflict, the latest conflict, it was a massive refugee camp with impoverished conditions, but the people there have a deep connection to this land. So there's that issue. You can't just solve it by moving them somewhere else in the Middle East.
So wait a minute. Now you guys have a commentary regarding the history of the Palestinian people. being in an impoverished place, these refugee camps that have been set up for years, they go back to the existence of Israel. Israel only exists in the context that Palestine was taken over, and they've been displaced and put in refugee camps, and have been in this horrible situation for almost 80 years. That's the context of the existence of Israel. And you guys have failed to cover that when Biden was in office or Obama was in office. You don't ever cover that accurately until now. Now you're concerned about what's happening with these people. You had no reason to tell us anything like this at October 7th, right? It was unprovoked attack. It was no red line for Netanyahu. It was let's punish those Hamas. We got to get Hamas. And now look what that caused. That caused 2 million people, and we told you guys the whole time it was going to be these people displaced, whoever survives. And we're not even talking about the starvation part of it, but now you're pretending to have empathy because Trump's talking about real estate opportunities and taking advantage of this beautiful place that has been underutilized. So let's get the people out, and then we could do something positive with the land. You guys recognize that that's insensitive, right? Okay. So again, where was your commentary about this when we were funding a freaking genocide for the last 15 months? Where was it? Well, we know where it was. Let's hear a little more.
Historically, American presidents haven't had success when they're trying to change the geopolitics of the Middle East. Practically, the Jordanians don't want it because they've already got millions of Palestinian refugees, which is destabilizing. The Egyptians would be worried that there would be cross-border terrorist attacks that could bring into doubt the Camp David Accords that we talked about when President Carter died, start a conflict with Israel. And more broadly, this is contradictory to Trump's wider goals in the Middle East, which is to expand the Abraham Accords, create this anti-Iran front between Arab states and the Israelis. So, he might view it as a real estate dispute, but it has deep practical diplomatic implications, this suggestion.
Wow. They're really so deep in their discussion of understanding the complexities. All of a sudden, they weren't willing to talk about anything like this when it was Biden and Harris and Obama and anybody before. They just, now they're concerned. Now they're concerned about what the consequences of actions. But again, if you're a CNN audience, you think that the problem's starting now. You don't think this is related to October 7th or the illegal occupation of Palestine for the last almost 80 freaking years. You don't see the connection there. You only see it as something that Trump is doing uniquely inappropriately, uniquely insensitive. And now you're concerned. To the little audience you have left, this is why Trump coined the phrase, and I have to admit it, guys, I did not understand fully what he was saying back in 2015, 2016, when he said fake news. We're doing a segment now called Real Fake News Update. That's what we're showing you, that he was actually right about that. You want to see, it's still a problem. It's still a problem. This also happened. I don't know, this was either today or yesterday, but this is fresh. This is look, watch Trump's face as he has to yet again go after these despicable CNN reporters at this press conference. Watch this. This is a reminder to you that there's a reason Trump was elected in 2016, and there's certainly a reason he was elected again 8 years later. Check this out.
Climbing over walls and so on.
That's true. But they weren't actors.
They're not going to be doing that.
They weren't actors. Well, no, it's true. Do you think they were actors? They weren't actors. They didn't come.
He's trying to call Trump out on his campaign commercials of showing illegal immigrants in the commercials going over fences, and that was for viewership. And he's saying, "Are you saying they're actors?" So that's where this starts.
From Hollywood, these were people. This was an actual. It happened a few days ago, and
they're hundreds of miles away, though. They're hundreds and hundreds of miles away. That's not an invasion.
Honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN,
all right.
And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
If I may ask one other question, Mr. President. If I may ask one other question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President,
that's
I was going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr. President,
that's enough.
Mr. President, I had one other question, if I may ask, on the Russia investigation. Are you concerned that that you may have.
I'm not concerned about anything with
you
the
may have
Russian
indictments coming
investigation
down.
because it's a hoax.
Are you?
That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
Mr. President.
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Go ahead.
I think that's unfair.
You're a very rude person. The way you treat Sarah Huckabee is horrible. And the way you treat other people are horrible. You shouldn't treat people that way. Go ahead. Go ahead, Peter. Go ahead.
In Jim's defense, I've traveled with him and watched him. He's a diligent reporter who busts.
I got to stop there. Notice how the mainstream media pundits have each other's backs. Isn't that interesting? Didn't we just see, like a week ago, we saw Max Blumenthal and Sami Husseini getting thrown out of the State Department meeting with the Anthony Blinken, and not one journalist defended them. Isn't it interesting? It feels like that these reporters, these Pfizer-sponsored, CIA-sponsored, massive paycheck reporters, seem to get each other's back. Like Trump is we have to all unite. I got your back, Jim. I got your back, Jim Acosta. Don't worry. And believe me, security ain't going to be manhandling any of those people out of the room like we saw with Max. And so I just want to make that comparison. But watch what happens. Watch how skilled Trump is. And he's been skilled at this. This is one of his better skills, is that he doesn't back off when he says, you are out of line. You are in the wrong. Shut your mouth. And now, so this guy's going to come to defense, and Trump's not going to let him get away with it. Watch this.
Well, I'm not a big fan of yours either, so
I understand.
to be honest.
So let me ask you a question, if I can. You repeatedly said
you aren't the best,
Mr. President. You repeatedly over the course of the.
Just sit down, please. Well, when you report fake news, when you report fake news, which CNN does a lot, you are the enemy of the people. Go ahead,
Mr. President. Over the course.
There it is. Sit down. And he sat down. You can't go up against this guy. You can't do that. It's not going to work. You guys are going to have to, if you want to get Trump on something, you got to go at him in an honest way. You got to acknowledge the thing he did, and then say your critique. Why do you guys continue with this bullshit? You heard what Jim Acosta said earlier, the Russian, we're still getting to the bottom of the Russian thing. He said this misinformation. Stop it. Stop it with your lies. Next. Sit down. Next. That's the fake news. And again, Trump gets credit for coining that term. I didn't fully understand it when he said it back 8 years ago. Well, we get it now. So that's your real fake news update. Okay. Here we are. Happy Tuesday, everyone just joining us today on The Homeless Left. We still got some more show coming up for you. I think we're ready for our next topics here, because we're ready to bring in our co-host for today. Welcome back to the show, Jay Scott.
Hey, what's going on, Matt? Great work, man. Calling out the fake news. They're a huge part of the problem. So consistency, we got to make sure people realize how fake they really are. So I don't agree with Trump on a whole lot, but he's definitely right about the media lying to people and presenting, one side of every argument. So good point.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we do. We like to remind people that what we do here is we're case by case. We call, if he gets something right, we let people know. If he gets it wrong, we let people know. That's how journalism is supposed to work. That's how life is supposed to work. Aren't we supposed to do that? By the way, aren't we supposed to be doing that with all of our relationships, with our friends, with our family, with our coworkers, with our boss? Now, bosses are a little harder, right? Just like parents, but still, you still have to, there has to be a level of critique. You can protect your house, protect your family, right? You can say we have a strong family, a strong company, a strong friendship, whatever, friend circle, relationship, my significant other, my wife, my girlfriend, my husband, my boyfriend. We are strong. We respect each other. But when my partner does something that's BS, I am going to call them out on it. It doesn't mean I'm against them. It doesn't mean that I want them to fail. It actually means the opposite. We want them to succeed. We want them to succeed because we want to succeed with them.
I wish my girlfriend could hear that accountability segment you went over just now. But yeah, accountability is something that everyone struggles with to different extents. I think CNN has absolutely zero accountability, to be honest with you, because like you pointed out, all of a sudden now that Biden isn't president anymore, all of a sudden now we have critiques about what Israel is doing over in Gaza. All of a sudden Biden isn't president and AOC wants to call out, Biden sucking up to the oligarchy and pretending that's the reason, they lost. Well, why didn't you do that during the election? Where were you when everyone was calling for primaries against someone who was clearly old and clearly going to lose to Donald Trump? And that's why, in my opinion, that freeze he put on, all federal grants and all government stuff this morning, I think, unless if it lasts a long time, it could do like a lot of damage, like to the country. So, all in all, there's already some bad things coming out of Trump's administration, but I really do blame the Democrats for that. Because you knew what Trump was going to do. Trump is doing some of the things that he said he was going to do. All the worst parts about what he said he was going to do, he started out pretty strong with those, and one or two good signs too. I'm still waiting to see how much of the truth we get, with these JFK and MLK files about to be released. But, let's see. I want to be hopeful.
I don't think Epstein was included in that one, but hey, that's
no. And it's so funny you mentioned that, him in particular, right? Because there's a clip of Trump, and I have it like on my Twitter feed. I got to send it to you. Maybe we could, put it up next time. But there's a clip of Trump being asked about releasing all these top secret files, right? And he says, yeah, JFK will release those. 9/11 will release those. But Epstein, I don't know if we want to release those. We could embarrass some people, and there were some names brought up in there that had nothing to do with it, and we don't want to embarrass people who were innocent. So and of course, for those who don't know, John Doe 174, that's no one other than the Donald himself. So Donald was great friends with Trump for a long time. Donald was great friends with Epstein for a long time and had a great relationship with Epstein's mentor, Roy Cohn. But, I don't want to derail the conversation too much. But if your viewers have not heard of Roy Cohn, they should definitely look him up, because he was the architect that kind of brought together the intelligence agencies and organized crime to help them start that blackmail operation that we saw manifest with Jeffrey Epstein. So there's a long history there, and Trump has deep ties to it.
I'm sure he does, and so does everybody else in positions of power. There's nobody is pushing him to get that out, because they're also going to be, they're incriminated on that. So everybody's got each other's backs, it seems, on that.
Whitney Webb. Your viewers should go read Whitney Webb if they have never read her work before. One Nation Under Blackmail. Can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to get to some Whitney Webb here in a second, but I want to start with this with you here. This is DeepSeek. I was tuned into this when you sent this to me last week, Jay. And so DeepSeek is crushing Silicon Valley and OpenAI, and everything that the U.S. has put out there as far as being the leader of AI. It seems like the opposite is happening. So let me go through this real quick. This is a tweet that kind of breaks it down, and then I want to get your thoughts on this. So just gonna grab the screen share here. So I'm doing our own tech today. So bear with me. Here we are. Here we go. Okay. So we have. This is from the Savior. China just humiliated the U.S. DeepSeek, China's new AI model, has already erased $2 trillion in U.S. tech market value. In months, China has gone from playing catch up to destroying U.S. dominance in AI. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so we have DeepSeek's rise has been nothing short of explosive. This AI model went from zero to hero, outperforming major Western players like ChatGPT in just a matter of months. And the best part, it's way cheaper than anything the U.S. has produced. Oh, that's unfortunate.
We spent $6 million on it compared to the billions and billions we've spent on AI.
And here we got, this is, you guys want to look at this. This is a number. If you can't see the numbers, they're dropping tremendously. The result is the U.S. tech stocks are taking a massive hit. This is the $2 trillion that was wiped out in just days. Investors are scrambling, and the U.S. tech giants are left in the dust, struggling to keep up with China's lightning speed innovation. And then this isn't just a win. This part's important. It's not just a win for China. It's a game changer. So DeepSeek's success shows the U.S. can no longer claim undisputed tech dominance. What once took China decades to achieve in manufacturing and years in internet tech, they've now done in months with AI. And finally, DeepSeek is a wake-up call. The U.S. is no longer the undisputed leader in the tech race. With AI as a new frontier, China is closing in fast. The question is, how will America respond to this? Your take, Jay.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a game changer. And, you know, for just so everyone understands how big of a deal this is, this doesn't only affect the tech companies directly, because a lot of people's retirement portfolios are either tied up directly in some of these tech stocks, or they're tied up in companies that have invested a lot in these tech stocks. So all of the major banks, you know, have major investments in it. All the mutual funds, like, they all put money into these tech stocks because they assume that these tech stocks are going to be paying off, you know, billions and billions of dollars down the road. And they're going to be producing record profits. Now, what DeepSeek did is they actually gave away this AI. So they're not even charging people for it. So they produce something that by some estimates is like 50 to 60 times more powerful than what we've got over here with ChatGPT, which I do believe OpenAI does have the most advanced AI, and what they released is a lot more powerful than what we have over here, and they're giving it away for free. So they essentially just destroyed the entire business model like of what OpenAI was trying to achieve. And you know, you have all these different tech companies like Microsoft, Google, they're all investing in OpenAI. They're all investing in their own AIs too. And you know, this company just comes in, produces something better, and starts giving it away. So the ramifications of that revenue stream, which banks, hedge funds, mutual funds, and all these different companies were expecting, like, that could have tremendous impact, you know, on our portfolios, because tech is the leading sector in the stock market right now. So when tech stocks are hurting, more than likely the rest of the market is going to start hurting also. So it's like a domino effect. And this is a really big domino that fell over the weekend. And unfortunately, you know, it says a lot about how much we waste like money over here. Because how is it that we can spend, like, one company, OpenAI, had close to $10 billion, you know, in investment over the past few years. And this company did it with a $6 million investment. Now, granted, you know, I'm sure there's other investments that aren't being counted, you know, like as much. Maybe they got some technology from somewhere else because there's a little bit more sharing going on in China. But still, on paper, they only have $6 million. So even if you're generous and you say it was 40 or 50 million, that's still probably less than 5% of what we're spending on it, and they're achieving much better results. So we have to ask ourselves, what are we wasting all of this money on? Is it really just to make tech executives and all these different people in tech companies super rich? Is there any better way that we could be spending this money other than making all these people in tech companies filthy rich to produce mediocre products? You know, it seems now, at least that's what, you know, DeepSeek makes it seem like. So yeah, this could have impact. This could have a tremendous impact on our military, because if they're able to produce something this advanced, you know, like for us to use, imagine what they're producing behind the scenes. Imagine how they can use that in their own military. This could have tremendous impact on geopolitical positioning and relations, because if China is now positioning itself as the leader in AI, and we know how much AI can change the world and change the way everyday life works, this gives China more cards on the table than they originally had. And they already had a bunch of cars because they have such a strong manufacturing center, and a rising middle class. So, it's really not good overall for America because, it does shift a lot of the power actually further east. And, we have to wait to see how things play out and if we're able to come up with something like as good as what they did. But long story short, China was not supposed to be able to do this because we were holding back our most powerful chips from China specifically to prevent them from getting, from developing this kind of AI. So what that means is that they've either developed their own chips that, they're not telling us about, which doesn't seem to be the case, or they're building something a lot more powerful than what we have using the chips we're allowing them to have. So imagine what could happen if we did give them access to these super powerful chips that we've been holding back from them. How much further along would that push them from where we are? So, we have major questions I think, we need to ask. And, in my opinion, at the top of that list is, as we're talking about eliminating the Department of Education, is that really the best way, to prepare our workforce to eliminate the Department of Education at this point in time? And while I do think we need some decentralization and there should be some opportunity for the states to, customize some of the course material to their local needs. At the end of the day, one of the biggest problems we have in our school system over here is there's no investment in infrastructure, especially once you go into the poorer communities. I used to work in education, Matt, then I'm gonna land the plane. And I noticed that some of the schools, and it was a nonprofit I used to work at actually, and we were focused specifically on hands-on STEM education. And some of the schools in the poorer neighborhoods that we would go to would have maybe 2 or 3 computers to share in a class of like 25 to 30 students with 20 desks available. And then you go to a richer neighborhood and every student has their own computer. So how can we compete, with China, with Japan, with Singapore, with all these other countries if we're not giving our kids a chance to succeed? And if we're cutting funding to education and we're not controlling how the money is spent, because sometimes people throw money at a problem, but there's no accountability for how that money is spent. And then it's spent poorly. And then people come back and say, oh, look, we tried investing in the problem already and it didn't fix it. So money isn't the issue, when they blew the money and spent it on administrative costs instead of actually buying more computers for the kids and that kind of thing. So it raises a lot of questions, and I think we really need to pay attention to it.
Yeah, well, okay. I hear what you're saying, and obviously we need to do something. We can't, this is the system we have right now is not sustainable, which is why I kind of want to push back a little on the, you're making the equivalency of that by cutting funding from the Department of Education is a step back. I don't necessarily agree with that, because I think that the reason that Trump is cutting the Department of Education funding is because there is massive corruption within that system, and it's about rehauling the entire thing. And I think that the problems in our education system might be leading to why we're so disconnected and workers are so disconnected to how to function in a job market and in a big tech environment, way different than people in China that have their education. So we do know there's an education problem, but I do think he's trying to overhaul that from like a ground zero point of view, where you start from scratch and you start the education you tackle it from ground zero and you build it up from there. That's what I think. Now, I don't know if he's going to be successful with that, but I do think that is his intention. But look, make no mistake, we do have to do something different. There's no way what we have right now is sustainable. So I think that's why we do have kind of this bulldozing approach coming in from Trump in a lot of different departments, where he just kind of plowing through and saying we got to overhaul everything. And we saw that taking, not to change the topic, but there's other departments he's getting rid of, right? And for good reason on those, at least, like IRS. It seems like he's going through with that, or at least trying to, firing a bunch of those guys and saying we don't need you anymore. We want to do instead of IRS, it's going to be ERS, right? External Revenue Service. So we're hearing that.
Yeah.
So there's an approach to, I think, the entire system that needs to be rebuilt. So I think that in that regard. Now, look, as far as how do the people of our country respond to this? How do the people respond when they see DeepSeek? That I'm interested in that part as well. And let me just throw this up because this is Jungle Jer made a comment. We did have a little bounce back today. NVIDIA is
NVIDIA.
back.
They're the
NVIDIA.
chip maker.
They are the chip maker, and they're back to about 50% of losses from yesterday. Okay, so that I mean, okay, let's check it. Let's check them again tomorrow. I mean, I'm sure there's a little bit of this going on, but let's look at what. Yeah, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, really quick on the stock prices. The stock prices are literally just people deciding whether or not they want to buy a stock. It's not really indicative of their profit level. And
Right.
you know, one thing people should know is that there's a metric people use to measure stocks called the price to earnings ratio. And long story short, the only reason why American stocks are so high is because we have the Federal Reserve and we're the world reserve currency. And rich people are essentially parking all of their money like in the stock market to make themselves money. But in my opinion, right now, the state of our stock market is kind of like a pyramid scheme to an extent, because the earnings you get from the actual stocks don't justify the price of the stock. So the way you get your money out is exactly like you would in a pyramid scheme, by someone else coming in to bail you out, aka buying your stocks. And there's no real connection between a stock price and the amount of dividends that you get per share, like there was a few decades back. So that's why, in my opinion, you can't necessarily look at the price like of a stock and decide if that means it's a good company or not, because there's a lot of other factors that go in over there. But yeah, we definitely should do a segment on the Department of Education a little bit, because I do agree that there's corruption in there and there's idiotic things in there that need to be changed, and it does veer off course a lot. But I don't necessarily know if giving all the power back to the states is going to solve that problem, especially because it's usually cheaper actually to corrupt state officials than it is to corrupt federal officials. So if corruption is what we're worried about, it doesn't necessarily get eliminated by giving the power back to the states.
Yeah, we should look more into that, and it is a complex issue. But we do know that there's been red flags waved about DEI, implementing those type of policies. It's not. We know China doesn't have that. So why don't we look at that? Why don't we see how is China's education system going? So how did they get to the place where DeepSeek is so successful? I think you're right, Jay. I think it does start with education. But why don't we look over what they're doing? We know they're not doing DEI. Legislation over there. They're just putting their kids to work, and they're setting an example. It's easier said than done, but maybe there's a cultural element to it where it's like there's taking that education process seriously, and best man for the job. So you better work harder than the next guy, and all that.
Yeah, well, there's studies on it actually. They've looked, even in America, at the amount of time kids spend studying, on their homework and outside of school. And Asian Americans are far higher than every other, race of people. So there is something, like East Asian. So there is something definitely to the cultural aspect of it. That's part of it. But, that's definitely not the whole thing. So, and the DEI conversation, I think, gets so mixed up, because the original reason that DEI was created was to solve the inequalities, right, that were in the country, solve the inequality, or to at least try to address the inequality that existed between Black Americans and white Americans. But the issue is, in DEI right now, a bunch of other things have been looped under the same roof, you could say. And now DEI could mean a white woman, a gay man. It doesn't necessarily have to do with the people like it was intended to help. In fact, I saw a statistic the other day. I think they said like less than 10% of DEI jobs are held by straight, Black men, which is the demographic that it was originally intended to help when they came up with the idea. So, there's a ton of issues with how that whole thing has been rolled out. But when it comes to, the educational disparities, that really starts with how we fund the system. Like, because if you look at it, if you go to a school in a Black neighborhood that's gone through redlining, for several decades, and the property prices are depressed, and you fund schools in those neighborhoods using property taxes, which is currently the case, then you're going to get a lot less funding going to that school. And if you give the school full control over how that money is spent, and, we also have a situation where administrators give themselves a raise, instead of actually investing in the facilities at the school, then even though you're spending some more money on the school, it's not actually going where it needs to. And, one last thing, I don't know if people realize it, but teachers actually get paid more when the schools perform worse. And as crazy as that sounds, it's actually true, Matt, because the thinking behind it is that if it's a C school, it's tougher students they'll have to deal with. So they need to pay teachers more, in order to get them to work at that school. But
what is that? That reminds me of something. What is that? It's so familiar. Something about getting paid for ventilators and COVID positive tests.
Yeah, it's all just fun. Like the incentives are all wrong, man. So like DEI doesn't even address the mission it was intended to do. And you don't solve a problem by just putting together solutions that don't address the problem. And you don't solve the problem by looking at the end goal instead of starting at the beginning of it. You got to start at the beginning of it, in my opinion. And nothing that we have in the country is really addressing the root causes of these issues.
Right. And so you want to get to the root cause. It's the system itself that is broken. The system itself is not functional. The system itself isn't sustainable because the system, the profit over people system, creates profit for there's no profit for wellness. There's profit for sickness. There's no profit for peace. There's profit for war. And in this case, there's no profit for educational success. There's profit for educational failure. So it's the opposite of the thing that you're trying for is what you end up getting rewarded for. Yeah.
And I had an ex-girlfriend who used to be a teacher, and she worked at, one of these tough schools. And, one day, or not one day, the term that, I was with her for like less than a year, but at the end of that term, some of the teachers were worried because the kids did good on their exams, and they knew that would mean that their paycheck would go down if it moved from a C school to a B school. So is that even fair to teachers in the first place? Like, why are we putting teachers in this position where they're not being paid a lot of money and they get paid more when students perform worse? Like, what are we doing here? It doesn't make any sense. But so that's why I say, the problem isn't necessarily DEI itself has problems, but eliminating that isn't going to solve the issues we have. It's a lot worse than that. So yeah, in my opinion.
Yeah. So this is an ongoing story, but I'll one positive thing I'll say is they're not going to be able to fool us that China's the bad guy as much anymore. That's the part I wanted to throw in to end this segment here, that no matter what we do next, no matter how America responds to the AI problem, because it's a problem that we're going to have to admit that China's going to take the reins and be the leader of the world in AI, but they're not going to be able to play that game where the big, bad, evil China is coming to kill us or take us over or ruin us, because we have communication now with the younger generation.
We can turn it around.
Yeah. I'm just saying we can turn it around, but they're going to have to figure out a real solution, not just paint this picture of China as the bad guy and getting us all to comply with their next thing without really looking at it and going, what makes China successful? What makes their story important? What makes them not these horrible people that we were told they were? And then again, we looked at Red Note. We've been looking at Red Note. There's a timing here of that the American people want to communicate. They want to have answers, and they're not going to wait just for the leadership to tell them the answers. They're going to go get them themselves. So they're going to do their own research. They're going to have their own conversations, and they're going to figure out a solution to the problem probably faster and better than anybody here that actually runs anything here. So I give more power to the people in this case, and the people might figure it out first. So
yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So let's move on to this other. Actually, before we do, I want to get into the Whitney Webb thing, and I know we got you for another 2025 here, but let me ask you, because I saw this come up. Could you tell us really quick, Jay, what happened on your Facebook page?
Yes. So
yeah,
I posted.
I'm gonna let you tell the story. You're gonna tell the story from scratch. Let me bring you on here, and I want to hear what happened here. So yeah, tell us what happened.
Yeah, no worries. So yesterday morning, I did what I would call the most benign political activism, like, you could ask for. All I did was simply say, hey, everyone, you should all call your representatives and advocate that they confirm RFK Jr. I didn't name a single conspiracy theory. I didn't say the word vaccine. I didn't say anything was poisonous. I didn't say mRNA. All I said was, hey, guys, you should all call your senators and your representatives and ask them to confirm RFK Jr. because it could be a great step in getting the country healthy. And about half an hour after I made that post, my entire personal Facebook page was completely terminated, like completely disabled. And they made me take a picture of myself and submit it so I could try to get it reactivated. And then, I would say about 6-7 hours later, they ultimately came back and restored the page. But I'm thinking to myself, what did I actually do to get this page taken down? Because I didn't put out any misinformation. I didn't say anything except call your senators and ask them to confirm RFK Jr. because it could be a great step in getting the country healthy. And I had a picture in the comments listing all the contact information for each senator. So how is it acceptable that they can just terminate my page directly after I do that? And granted, they did give it back to me, but it's like, what set off the red flag in their system? And how did this happen literally 2 weeks after Mark Zuckerberg goes on Joe Rogan and says, yeah, we messed up, we did it, during COVID, we listened to the government, we censored people who weren't lying, who weren't saying anything wrong. They just weren't framing things in the right way. And we're not going to do that anymore. We've learned now, you guys, we want to encourage civil discourse and political discourse on our platforms. And 2 weeks after that, I get my whole page disabled simply for asking my friends to call their senators. So I was, pretty shocked by that, to be honest with you, because like I said, I didn't even post any quote unquote misinformation.
Yeah.
So that whole story was kind of crazy to me. And I don't know, maybe it had something to do with the fact that I posted about it on Twitter, and it wasn't like crazy viral, but it got like a few thousand views. So maybe it was something to do with that. But I don't know, man. It was so crazy that they took my page down for something as simple as that.
Yeah. The timing of it is what got my attention, Jay, because look, we've dealt with this stuff. We know how the censorship machine works. We know that Google, YouTube, Facebook, all of them, they've been doing this to us the whole time. I mean, the whole time we've been in existence. I got taken off Facebook back, and this is before. The timing's important with yours, but with mine, I would just share out that I was doing some, like an interview with Kit Cabello, Hardlens Media, and I just shared it out. I literally shared out what he posted about our interview, and then Facebook said that I was they had to take it down because it was like defamatory against myself or something. They said this is not your attack because we were talking about the YouTube channel being terminated. That was the topic of discussion. So I thought I would share it on Facebook that we got terminated, and then Kit Cabello was interviewing
Facebook censored you
because the title of his show was that Matt Weinglass got terminated, Homeless Left got terminated on YouTube. So Facebook flags it and says you're defaming somebody on this platform, and we want to let you know you can't do that. I go, but that someone is me. I'm the person. that I'm sharing
That's
about.
crazy. That's crazy.
But again, for you to have this happen now, after this whole campaign about Zuckerberg's come to his senses. And you guys have all seen this interview on Joe Rogan. Zuckerberg is not, he doesn't have feelings. He's a sociopath. We know how sociopaths work. They have to pretend they have emotion. If you guys want to know how well, let me just, okay, I want to hear this, but if you guys want to know how sociopaths work, go watch American, what is it? What is the, it's just blanking. The Christian Bale film, American Psycho. Go watch American Psycho. American Psycho will show you, and we're supposed to be rooting for him in a weird, twisted way to get through all of his interactions, because it's so hard for them. When you're sociopathic, you have to pretend that you have feelings and do the thing that you think you're supposed to do and respond emotionally the way you think. So it's all fake. It's all acting. And that's what Zuckerberg is. He's a true sociopath who has to pretend, I feel this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to respond to this. None of it is real. He doesn't have emotion. Go ahead.
Yeah, and on Zuckerberg in particular, I remember in the interview, he specifically, said that, he likes hunting and he uses a bow and arrow. And then Joe Rogan asked him, what type of bow do you use? Oh, I don't know. So, he's literally just saying stuff like to be relatable, lying through his teeth. So that's the kind of person he is, man. He's like, oh, well, I'm going on Joe Rogan. What do his viewers want to hear? Let me pretend I'm just like that. But yeah, man, he's hilarious. So the whole timing, on that situation, hopefully, I don't know. I had some hope that Facebook would see improvements with the censorship since he went in that interview. Now I can see it seems like we're pretty much on the same track. But, last thing, it really does show me that they must be truly terrified, of RFK Jr. if they're still censoring this heavily, around this topic, because the only thing that could have set off their censors was the fact that I said RFK Jr. in the post and call your senator. And because I mentioned those two words together, they completely disabled my account. It wasn't even a suspension from posting new stuff. It wasn't even a warning, a deboosting. No, they disabled the whole account just because I said RFK Jr. So they're terrified of him. And, that does give me hope that if he gets in, maybe he is actually going to do something good. I believe he will if he can get in. I do believe, he's a man of character and he stays true to his word the best he can. So I'm hoping he can get in there.
We'll see. It's apparently the confirmation hearing is tomorrow, so we'll be able to cover this on Thursday. And then I know you're coming back next week. I hope it's good news. I hope that we are able to start moving forward with the HHS. And again, this is about rehauling the systems that don't work. And our medical and big pharma doesn't work. And you have all these people in big tech that are trying to protect it, like Zuckerberg. And the fight continues. But tomorrow's a big day, so we're going to know tomorrow. And then I'd love to have the conversation continue. And I hope we're not depressed after this, because we will be. I'm going to tell you that if he doesn't get in tomorrow, there's not going to be much left we can fight for as far as the MAHA movement is concerned. I think we're going to be screwed.
You got a seed oil lobbyist up high in the administration. You have Larry Ellison pushing his new set of mRNA vaccines. You have a big pharma lobbyist as his chief of staff. Who Susie Wiles is, right? I don't know if you ever looked at her background, but she's actually a big pharma lobbyist, not just for big pharma. It's actually for some pretty terrible industries too. So Trump has a lot of bad people around him. So if RFK can get in there, he is somewhat of a bright spot in there. So you got to hope for the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, let's get into this. The CBDCs, the FTX. The digital dollar is coming, and Whitney Webb called it out first. So I'll put that banner up first. Do you want to start with the article, or do you want to preemptively tell us where we're at and why? Because this article that Whitney Webb wrote is from a year ago, but it came up again on Twitter, on feeds today, or in the last couple of days. I know Ian Carroll was sharing something and she responded to him. Do you want to walk us through what happened? I can bring the article up if you need it for reference.
Yeah, so long story short, the FTX thing is relevant only because it shows you who some of the key players are. And even though FTX as a company isn't really that relevant anymore, one of the banks that they were working with does actually seem to be the one that could have a lot to do with this CBDC that they're trying to roll out. But long story short, it's possible to implement a synthetic CBDC using stable coins. And that is something the Trump administration has fully embraced. And instead of it being a digital dollar that's issued by the Federal Reserve, aka our central bank, it's a digital dollar that's issued by companies that are essentially controlling our government. Because if you really look at it, the government, yes, has done bad things, but they're doing these bad things because of the forces controlling the government. So if we implement a synthetic CBDC just through the private sector that can still function as money that can be censored, and controlled, then we still have the same outcomes. And just to give everyone a brief overview of what the danger is about CBDCs, imagine, you get paid and you're only allowed to save a certain amount of your money. They make you spend a certain percentage of it. They only allow you to spend it in certain ways with certain vendors. All that can be achieved with a CBDC or with a stable coin. And so even though Trump has come out and said that his administration is not going to implement any CBDCs, they have embraced stable coins, which can function the exact same way. So, it's kind of like a Trojan horse to get to the same end goal. Now, in terms of the actual article Whitney Webb wrote, she goes into a lot of detail, but the player that she's calling out is it originally started out as Farmington State Bank, and then they wound up changing their name afterwards to Moonshot Bank, I believe. And they're the bank of the largest stable coin right now, which is Tether. And essentially, they have already kind of indicated that they're willing to be used by the government to achieve their goals, because they've censored transactions and they've frozen wallets that the US government tells them are, tied to, terrorism. So they could just as easily, and granted, they haven't done it too often just yet, they could just as easily come back and say any people who don't agree with whatever administration is in power is going to be designated as a terrorist, and we want you to freeze their accounts so they can't access their money. So it can function exactly the same way as CBDCs. And this bank that Whitney Webb brought up inside the article, when they changed their name, they actually got incorporated in the Bahamas. And so right now we have a bank that's not even within American, jurisdiction, that is part of the Federal Reserve and receives that FDIC insurance, and could have a very strong hand in how our CBDC gets rolled out, because they're the official bank of Tether, that cryptocurrency. And the gentleman who owns that bank, well, not the guy himself, but there's people on the board who are directly tied to Epstein. It's not a good set of characters surrounding this whole situation right now.
Oh man. So you're saying that even though Trump is saying he'll freeze it, that's still not going to change the fact that we're going to be moving into this world where, we're already there. We're basically already there. If people are getting this digital money, they're getting money cut off or taken away or disappeared, they already control us. Everybody, no matter what you call it, everybody is basically being tracked, and you can be punished by having your finances eliminated in a snap of a finger. That's the whole point, right? That's no matter what you call it, that's where we're headed. Is there any way around that, or is Trump doing anything
So the hope was that Trump was going to embrace Bitcoin fully and create a Bitcoin reserve. I know you remember that talk. So in the big wave of legislation that Trump signed last week, he has now shifted tone from creating a Bitcoin reserve to saying that we're going to look into the possibility of creating a basket of different cryptocurrencies. Now, the difference between Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies is Bitcoin is the most decentralized. If you and me, Matt, want to transact with each other, I can send my Bitcoin directly to you and nobody can stop that transaction from happening because the network is controlled by miners who are located all over the world. With Ripple, which seems to be the most influential cryptocurrency in the Trump administration right now, the validators and the people who control how the cryptocurrency is verified, they all get very strongly recommended by Ripple Labs. And essentially that means most of the people who are controlling these nodes have been pre-approved and pushed by Ripple Labs. So it's a very centralized system that's being pushed right now, and it's not decentralized the way Bitcoin is. So the good news is there is a way out. The bad news is Bitcoin is still volatile, and until there is a lot more adoption around it, it will actually remain pretty volatile. So I'm not confident that Bitcoin isn't going to take a drop of 20 to 30 like $1,000, because right now it's at about 102, 103 last time I checked. So I'm not saying that we're past all the swings and Bitcoin is only going up from here, because it is a volatile cryptocurrency. But if Trump had followed through with his original promise to create that Bitcoin reserve and double down on Bitcoin, then there would have been a lot more capital in the market and the volatility would have decreased, and that would have been a lot more beneficial for Bitcoin in the long run. So I will never give up on Bitcoin. That being said, I am diversified. If people are wondering what to do with their money, I would say you definitely want some gold in your portfolio, which you can invest in through an ETF or PAX-G, which is a cryptocurrency that tracks the price of gold. So there's many different ways to do it, or you can just buy the physical thing. But you want to have some in that, some in Bitcoin, and then some in like hard assets. If you have enough money to get out there and like buy some land, and you'll be able to handle the mortgage, buy some land, like invest in hard assets. So, but yeah, the dollar is in trouble. The situation with OpenAI makes that a lot worse, because our best hope at kind of recovering our stock market was to outperform through tech. And if we keep losing to China in tech, then our economy is in a lot of trouble. So, and with all these wars that could be on the table, there's just more and more ways to spend money. And it doesn't seem like there's, as many ways for the government to bring in money. And when the government can't pay its bills, it just prints more money to pay the bills. So we're not in a great situation right now.
No, not at all. I like your idea about the gold. I think that we got to figure out, be innovative in our ways that we can get as far away from our money being controlled digitally. The worst thing I saw that nobody cared about in the mainstream, they were mocking it on the Daily Show, but you remember the truckers convoy in Canada, you saw Justin Trudeau just cut off their bank accounts. And this was regular bank accounts. We're not even talking about anything digital, just that they had access, that the Canadian government just had access to people's accounts, not to mention the GoFundMe. So you just go right in and just take it. This is dangerous money. We're just going to take it. And that's insane that you can do that the government can do that and then say that, we're just protecting the people. How are you protecting people when you're draining their bank accounts and freezing them? It doesn't make any sense. We have to get away from the banks of any sort, of anything that's digital, anything where you can log in and you're going to get something come up on your screen that says you can't access your account right now. And that's going to go for Bitcoin too, man. That's not just regular coin or regular.
Bitcoin is peer-to-peer though, so you don't actually need to get anyone's permission to send Bitcoin, to go from Bitcoin wallet to Bitcoin wallet. The key is most people don't actually self-custody their Bitcoin. So if you own Bitcoin through an ETF or you have it on an exchange, then you don't have your keys, as people say in the crypto community. The key is you have to have a cold wallet or a hot wallet where you're the one who actually controls the keys to your Bitcoin. So that's why it is different from those other ones. And, that example you brought up about the truckers in Canada, it was the government that did it that time. But when you have a private cryptocurrency like XRP and Ripple, and these people are invested in the same interests that are controlling the government doesn't even need to tell them to freeze someone's accounts because they're already on the same page as the government because they're all invested in the same thing. So whether you call it a CBDC or it's a centralized stable coin, the risks are like nearly the same. And the rift between Ian Carroll and Whitney Webb was Ian essentially steelmanned the argument for stable coins, that there's a separation between the government and private entities, and there's so much efficiency that comes with digital money that we just need to embrace it, and it's probably not going to be that bad because there's a separation. But me personally, I love Ian does some great work, but I do have to side with Whitney Webb on this issue because when you follow the money, in my opinion, it all leads to the same places, and the big banks themselves have actually been arguing in favor of the exact same system that Trump is now pushing. Like JP Morgan, Bank of America, they were all against the CBDC. They want exactly what Trump is pushing right now. So yeah, so it wasn't really like, if you wanted to, like play it out, they could have just literally set up this gigantic boogeyman that they were never really intending on pushing to make people scared. So when they come with their actual plan, you think it's a lot better than the alternative. So that's probably what was going on with CBDCs, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I'm going to take Whitney's side on this one as well. But man, there's a lot. We got to keep our eye on this. This is such an unstable economy, unstable market. Keep an eye on Trump, the big moves he's doing. But I always appreciate your work, Jay. Thoughtful introspection and commentary we've had throughout the shows, and these were great topics today. I really appreciate it. Before I let you go, anything else you want to leave with the audience? I know we were able to talk about your Facebook situation. You got that worked out, right? And we can
Facebook is activated again, thankfully. So we'll see. Yeah, man. I just want to ask everyone to pay attention to what Trump's doing. Always give him credit, when he does something good, but with this whole freeze on all federal, grants and federal spending, people should know that if you have a loved one who's in a hospital and that hospital is receiving federal grants right now, then Trump freezing all federal grants may wind up impacting the kind of care that your family member is receiving. If you are planning on going to school or you have kids who are planning on going to college, right now, essentially financial aid is also being affected by this. So, this blanket freeze on federal spending, while I do agree that there are big problems in the government that, we have to work out and we have to get to the corruption, doing it this way and just stopping all money going out, from the government could actually cause a lot of damage. So it would be better to actually have a national conversation about some of these issues and then come up with something that we agree on as a good path forward and then take it from there. Because if not, we could wind up in a situation where things get a whole lot worse than better. So pay attention to what's going on. Give Trump credit when he does things right. You want to root for the country and, give him credit when he deserves it, but recognize he's owned by the same people who own the Democrats. So follow the money. That's all I got to say.
Well said. Thank you, Jay. And you guys can follow Jay Scott, JS Ascension on Twitter. And you've been working on some great music. I know I've been listening to some tracks, and we've been teaming up on some Homeless Left music. So I'm excited about putting this together, and it's sounding great so far. So I'm excited to share that with people, with our viewers and everything.
Yeah, thank you. I got a project that I'll be releasing within the next few months. So stay tuned, everybody. It's good music. It'll make you think a little bit too. So we're moving in the right direction. Take it easy, Matt. Catch you later.
Thanks, Jay. Okay, see you next time. All right, Jay Scott, shining a light on the stuff that gets lost in the news cycle, because there's so much going on these days. We can't keep up. Well, we try to keep up, so we need to have boots on the ground in some situations and multiple people working together, coordinating, getting up-to-date information. Speaking of update information, we found out that Jim Acosta just quit live on the air at CNN. We covered him just earlier in the show before Jay came on. How interesting. He couldn't take that beating from Trump. I guess he had enough. He had enough of the "you're fake news. You don't deserve to be working for CNN," which is quite a low blow for Trump to be saying you don't deserve to be working for CNN, a horrible network. You are lower than them. I guess Jim Acosta had enough. So we just got word from that. Thanks for letting us know about that. I guess that was Jungle Jer. Thank you for telling us about that. We'll play the clip later on in the show, but that's basically he's done. Good riddance. Go find something else to do. Jim. Hope you had a good time at the worst network in the world. All right, moving on. We are moving on. Okay, this is great. We are excited for our next guest. Let me give him a proper introduction. He is a veteran radio and TV political analyst, host of the Garland Nixon Show on YouTube and Rumble. We always appreciate his thoughtful commentary and insight to global politics and calling out the Western war machine. Please welcome back to the show, Garland Nixon.
Hey, thanks a lot for inviting me. As Mark Sloboda says, it's an honor and a pleasure to be on your show.
Awesome. Love it, Garland. And hey, thanks for having me on as well. We've had some great discussions on your show as well. I love your setup. I love how you just get right to it. I mean, sometimes we tend to do the little show stuff, the little showman Hollywood little bits and pieces, but you just we're getting right to the stuff. I love it. I love doing that. So thank you for that opportunity all the time coming on. I love it. Thank you.
Oh, we have a fun time. I enjoy it.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk to you about this, and I know you've been having these discussions on your show too, but we saw that the Trump Gaza stuff go down, and we even earlier today we covered how CNN CNN is so dishonest in pretending that now all of a sudden they care about Palestinians with nothing to say about it during the entire genocide we've been funding for the Biden administration. Now they care. But regardless of the mainstream media coverage, putting that aside, we do have this conversation. We've heard this conversation. So for viewers that didn't hear this, I'm going to play this piece, and then I want to kind of understand what is happening here and what can Trump actually pull this off. It looks like he's trying to get Palestinians, displaced Palestinians. We know it's ethnic cleansing, but he's trying to get them into Egypt and Jordan. Let's hear him say the thing that, the big reveal, it's a land grab. Let's check this out.
The whole Gaza Strip right now, and it's a mess. It's a real mess.
So you'd like Jordan to house people from Gaza?
I'd like him to take people. I'd like Egypt to take people. I'm talking to General El-Sisi tomorrow, sometime I believe. And I'd like Egypt to take people, and I'd like Jordan to take people. You're talking about probably 1.5 million people, and we just clean out that whole thing. It's over the centuries. That's many conflicts that site, and I don't know. It's something has to happen, but it's literally a demolition site right now. Almost everything's demolished, and people are dying there. So I'd rather get involved with some of the Arab nations and build housing in a different location where they can maybe live in peace for a change.
Temporarily, or would they
It could be either. It could be temporarily, could be long term.
It sounds to me like he's saying the quiet part out loud. This is one of the reasons they don't like the guy in the first place, because he says the plan out loud. This is the stuff we're supposed to say behind closed doors. So he's on the same team as all the other people that have been running our country into the ground and been terrorizing the rest of the world. But he's saying the keywords. It's a demolition site. We got to do something. We got to, all this rebuilding. It's obviously a land grab. Garland, what is your thoughts here on what Trump is saying? Does he think that this is going to go down with Egypt and Jordan? Is there something that's going to happen, or is he just playing to his Zionist base, the half that actually are saying, yeah, what a leader? Trump he knows how to take charge on day one. What's actually happening here?
A couple of things. Well, one of the things he's saying, if we recall, very early in the genocide, the Biden administration started, they came out early with that, right? Yeah, we'll move them. So this is not a new concept of just taking all of the Palestinians and shoving them off somewhere else. It's interesting. He said somewhere where they can live in peace, because we all know they can't live in peace with the Zionists next door trying to attack them and kill them and starve them to death all of the time. But to be quite frank, knowing a little bit about the regional politics, the Egypt and Jordan, it would be totally, completely destabilizing to their country. They couldn't really do it, number one. Number two, they'd all of a sudden have 1.5 million people that they have to feed and house, and they know good and damn well that the U.S. and its so-called allies, its vassals, and Israel would say, "Oh yeah, just take them there, and we'll continue to give them money." And and after like a month, they wouldn't give them a dime; they'd be stuck. So I don't see that happening, but this is not some new Trump phenomenon. It's the same game they've been trying. As I said, if people recall, like not long after October 7th, the Biden administration was saying that. I think there's probably Zionists, hitting them. Hey, Donald, why don't you give this a shot? Run this up the flagpole to see if anybody salutes. They've run it up the flagpole dozens of times. Nobody ever salutes it, but it doesn't shock me that he'd try that again. Ain't happening.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, look, he's talking about Jordan, Egypt. We're looking at the relationship we have with those countries, and what would happen if somewhere like Egypt were to, revolt against this and say, no, we're not doing this. Is it going to be a bloody mess? I mean, I'm saying, like, and we were looking, like Caitlin Johnstone was talking about this, like Egypt might be in a position, even more than Jordan, might be in a position where it's going to be hard to say no to this. If Trump actually if this is bigger than him just saying, talking to the base and just saying the shocking thing out loud, but actually pushing for this, is this something that Egypt's going to be forced into doing? We're going to actually see this greater Israel plan start to really move forward. If this beautiful property, this gorgeous place where we can do so much, and there's so much oil in the northern Gaza, and there's all this availability for real estate and BlackRock and all this stuff. Is this something that Egypt is going to have to cave and do, or are they going to resist? Or again, is this just him talking the talk? Is this, or is he going to put it into action, I guess, is my concern.
Well, here's the way I see it. They've been trying it for so long, and Egypt and Jordan and the other countries have been telling them, we can't do this. You know what I mean? We can't do this. A, we can't afford it. We're not going to. B, it would destabilize our countries. Our government might fall. We just can't do it. The people would go bananas in the region, right? So I think we'll talk about it for a while. We'll discuss it about, Trump said it and what's going to happen. But keep in mind, this happens every time there's something that goes down in, occupied Palestine. This proposal is put forward and they try to push it. And then, of course, now because there was a whole genocide, they're going to, it's obvious at some point, if they tried it at the beginning of the genocide, certainly they'll try it at the end. But I could always be wrong. I never, ever take any position, say I couldn't possibly be wrong. Personally, my opinion is I see little chance of this happening.
I think we're looking at this situation a little differently now versus every time, because you're right about this. There's a cycle to it. Every presidential change up, there's always this ceasefire arrangement, or we're going to have this Israel and Palestine are finally going to agree on something, and then it won't, and then one president takes credit for it, the other one. This happens every time. The only difference this time, Garland, is I'm noticing is that you do actually have people starving to death right now more than ever. You have families that actually have nowhere to go. The entire infrastructure has been demolished. I mean, you don't have the schools, the hospitals, everything is gone. What are the people going to do if this is a situation where it's just talk? which I hope it is, but what is really in for the best interest of Palestinians right now? What are they hoping for? What do they want to see happen? Because I mean, I'm not thinking they want to go somewhere else. They want to stay, but what is the alternative? We just let them starve to death? Like, it doesn't seem like anyone's going to step up and do the right thing. They're just going to pretend that Trump's being so mean. Okay, well, what are you going to do? Who's going to do anything? What's going to happen to these people that are literally starving to death?
I think you're going to see a lot of Saudi money coming in. I think that a big part of the game plan, especially with Donald Trump. Remember, Donald Trump was, the whole Saudi. He's big on the Saudi normalization. He's tight with the Saudis. I think, my opinion, I've said this for a while, that when this was over, provided it's over, you'll see a lot of Saudi BlackRock money coming in. I mean, a lot of people don't know this. BlackRock is interchangeable with the Saudis. I mean, the CEO of Aramco, the Saudi Arabian oil company, the largest corporation in the world, the CEO is on the board of BlackRock, right? And that ain't an accident. I think you're going to see all this Saudi money coming in. I think they're going to try to level. I think Trump's in tight with the Saudis, and they're saying, let's get this thing straight and then do the Saudi normalization. I think that's what Trump wants. He wants Saudi normalization with Israel, and he wants to try to get back to this Abraham Accords thing. So that's what I think. The rebuilding, I think a lot of money is going to come out of Saudi Arabia for rebuilding, in my opinion. And then that way, when Saudi Arabia can get in, straighten it out, and then they can move towards this Saudi normalization thing, however that's going to work. That's my opinion, but it's very complicated. So we're all just guessing now. I do feel like when Trump came in, there was like a number of dramatic changes, like reversals on several things, particularly mostly on foreign policy. I felt like that there was a segment of the ruling elite who was very unhappy with the direction Biden was going and just said, all right, we got to do this thing a different way. I mean, to me, it's not an accident. You look in the front row and there's like $2 trillion worth of tech bros from all over the world, China, India, all over that. A lot of these tech bros got together and they said, this thing's screwing with our money worldwide. We don't want a nuclear war. We got to go in a different direction. So I think we're seeing a lot of different things. And I think they really want to settle this in the interest of see, as long as the activists and the people who want justice want to settle it, nothing's going to happen. But when the ruling elite faction, they see that as the problem for themselves and they decide it's going to get settled, they'll put the money in and do what's necessary. So that's my prediction. Money's going to flood out of Saudi Arabia into the region for rebuilding and food and all the kinds of things. Because, a lot of trucks, the aid trucks are starting to flow in and things like that. So I don't know. It's hard to guess. We're going to, what we're going to have to do is go week by week. And here's what I've said. And I think this is critical right now, particularly with Trump, because he's a blabbermouth kind of guy. He yaps. I think with Trump, we're going to have to go by what he does. Because God knows on any given day, he'll say anything. You know what I mean? He says stuff. And what happens is Trump says something like, oh, the Russians or whatever, right? And everybody goes, oh, my God, he said this, right? I think we're going to have to disregard what Trump says and just go by what he does. We're going to have to look at the actions that happen and evaluate things based on an action that happened. Otherwise, we're going to be jumping up and down every other day when Trump says something outrageous, which he will, or post something outrageous, which he will. And then we'll all be bouncing off of each other trying to figure out what the last thing Trump says. And then he'll say something else outrageous about Russia or China or whatever, So I'm only going by what he does until, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I hear you. And that's the good news about Trump being in office is that because he's so loud, because he says whatever is on his mind, because he doesn't have a filter, we pay attention. And even like versus when you have a Joe Biden or a Kamala or Obama in office, you don't pay attention. You don't see all of the shenanigans going on behind closed doors because they know how to keep their mouth shut. And so that would be, I guess, to me, the silver lining of having him in there is that people are like, wait, what's going on in Palestine? Are you talking about a land grab? It's like, yeah, that's what we've been watching this whole time, but now the person's saying it. So yeah, that's good. Now we can get concerned. What do you mean by that?
We can scream about it. Good point.
Yeah.
Because if Trump said something, whether he's going to do it or not, we can push back on it.
Yeah.
Like if he says, yeah, perhaps we're going to do this and it's something we don't like, everybody can go bananas over it, push back on it, say we don't like it, and he'll get feedback on it. and pushback or whatever before he makes a decision or before he does anything, whether he's going to do it or not. My opinion is people at the political level that Donald Trump is, they're not acting based on the feedback of the littles. They got some very, very powerful and rich people above them that are giving them, I'm not just going to say instructions, but it seems like they're motivating them to act. Can we put it that way?
Yeah, and they're motivating him on what not to say. Notice how we never hear about the assassination attempt. You'd think that'd be something he'd be leveraging over and over again. Like I don't know, like he used to do that with the Hillary stuff and like he would always bring back something that would make him look good, just a little like. And I'm like, why would he not use that? That would be a great thing to use. So somebody's telling him, no, we're not going there. Or make them think that Iran tried to kill you, and we'll just call it a day. And it's like that doesn't look right. That's not right.
I'll be honest. I can't imagine that anyone on earth, including Trump, could have possibly believed that Iran was trying to kill him.
Yeah,
I don't think he believes it. You know what I mean? I don't think anyone on earth believes that. Even the people that are saying it, they're like on TV. We're reporting that Iran tried to kill Trump, and then like the camera's off. They're like, "Oh God, do we really have to say? Shh, just say it. Just read the teleprompter." Yes, Iran has made another effort to kill. You know what I mean? It's like the stupidest thing in the world to say, and I think even Trump kind of knows what it is. But there's if you understand Trump and you look at his books and stuff, you understand that Trump says a lot of things for effect. You know what I mean? Where we get screwed with Trump is we interpret what he says literally.
Yeah.
And he says he's an entertainer. He understands the entertaining, how to manipulate people. And I don't mean manipulate people, and that's always in a pejorative way. How to influence people, how to drive people in a different particular, somebody's telling a joke. They set you up with this joke. And then boom, 3 jokes later, they hit you. And it's only funny because they set you up with that story 10 minutes ago. And now it hits. See, Trump understands that. So he'll set you up for something and hit you later. So we interpret everything as literally as possible. And that's his big superpower over us. We're interpreting literally, and he's doing what entertainers do. He's doing a setup. He's pushing you over here. He's taking you over there. He's playing the game, and we're like, oh my God, Trump said 3, but there's only 2. So why would he possibly say 3 that he's going to do 3 when there's only 2 available? And we're like taking the numbers literally.
Yeah.
Right. And Trump doesn't care if it's 2, 3, or 5. He just wants to keep us jumping, and he's still trying to figure out which number he's going to go with. And I think that's the thing I found in recent week is I got to stop this literal interpretation of Trump's.
That's good. That's wise at this point. But we should take a step back and appreciate what he's really good at. It's entertainment. And it's great. He gets people so riled up. I mean, we just found out Jim Acosta, CNN, literally has resigned, has stepped away from CNN today. And it seems to me he was really upset with the way Trump talked to him, and he couldn't take it. And like I find that fascinating. Like he had that much power over you because he just tells you what he wants to tell you, and you have to figure out how to respond to it. It's like you're going into a boxing match with him, and he's just more skilled in that regard.
And the thing about Jim Acosta quitting is you'd never know it unless somebody like posted it online, because who the hell watches CNN anymore? Like we wouldn't know if somebody didn't like post it on social media. We would know for months.
That's a great point.
And nobody watches that.
And we only know it because the people posting on Twitter are people who called out this guy just a day ago for Trump handing his ass to him, basically in that press conference situation, and to see that, oh, this is the outcome of that. So people keep up on it. We have to do the work. You're right. We're not like tuning into CNN and seeing it live. Oh my God, I can't believe we just lost this great host we've been tuning into every evening. No, one's watching you anymore. No one's watching.
No. The other thing that's funny about it is as CNN and MSNBC dies, and they're like, well, it's because people are switching over to social media and they're going on it. No, it's not. It's because you lie. It's because all you do is put a bunch of former CIA. We're going to have former CIA chief John Brennan to tell us the truth about something, right? If you had an actual news channel, you'd probably be on the air. People like news. I want to turn on the news. What happened? There was a forest fire. A ship crashed, the moon's doing something, whatever. Give me a weather report next. Things that used to be on the news.
Yeah.
Now I turn on the news, and what do I see? Adam Schiff telling me that the Republicans did something. I turn on Fox, and there's somebody telling me that the Democrats. So what? They are not new. I don't know why they even put news. We have CNN and MSNBC, which are nothing but media operations for the Democratic Party and one segment of the ruling elite. Then we got Fox, that is a media operation for the Republican Party and possibly another segment of the ruling elite, possibly some of the same, right? So the reality is this. If there were news, they'd still be on the air. People would still watch. There's plenty of people that would watch the news. If it was, I would watch the news. I like to know the latest natural disaster, crime statistics, the crap that used to be on the news 20 years ago. Now, all I get is propaganda. China's doing this. Russia's doing that. Iran's after Trump. Venezuela, they're doing something. Cuba, well, they're certainly evil. They're not even, they won't even do what we tell them to do. So they got to be evil. I'm sick of that crap, and nobody wants to watch it anymore.
We are sick of it so much, and yes, Leslie's also sick of it. Propaganda for both parties. Oh, yeah, it's just propaganda. They're not journalists. They're propagandists. That's where we come to, and that's why we have to do what we're doing in the independent media arena. And you know that you're doing it right when they're shadow banning you, when they're punishing you, sending you strike emails. You've got to strike. Or we're demonetizing you, or worse, as we saw from our last guest from Jay Scott, you get terminated. Facebook just terminated his channel for sharing a thing about RFK Jr. How crazy when Zuckerberg said, "Oh, we don't do censorship anymore on Facebook." So they're all they're all corrupt, all of them. YouTube, Google, the whole bit. And if you are championing CNN still, if you're championing MSNBC or Fox News, then you're a little behind the times, and you need to kind of step back and see. Those are the people that are the problem. That's why we were even doing what we have to do. We wouldn't be doing this if they were doing their job right. I know I wouldn't be doing this if they were actually doing their job of journalism. So that's why we're here, and I appreciate that's what you're doing it, Garland. And you set a great example for the rest of us and all of our viewers. We appreciate everybody that understands. We're going to give you the most honest take that we can, and we're going to have thoughtful commentary throughout as real events go down. We're going to dissect them for you, figure out what's happening. And but Pfizer's not sending me a paycheck. CIA is not sending me a paycheck. I'm just doing the best I can, and I know you are too, Garland. So appreciate it.
Yeah, I got thrown off of KPFK for
man.
I had a show on KPFK, and then I probably said some things that they were quite unhappy with about the jab. And the next week they said, "Oh, we're going in a different direction." I'm, whatever, I knew that. And I would say when I was on there, I'd be like, "Yeah, I don't know how long I'm going to be around here," because I don't have a particular thing that I say, well, you can't say that, or you can't talk about that. I don't have anything that I just say, well, now that thing right there is a little over the edge. And I think when I was on, I just said something like, I'm unvaccinated, and this was my story, and this is why. And I gave my true honest story, and there was nothing in there that was pro or anti. It was really, the old, when they said do it, I looked at everything, and then I said, well, let me wait a couple months to see how things are turning out. And I watched everything I could online to learn about it. And then when I saw some statistics, and based on my age and health and all that, that it was only, let's see, 95% of the people that even went to the hospital, I didn't fit into that group, because I had no comorbidities or overweight, none of that stuff. So I said, well, hell, if I only got a 5% chance of going to the hospital, not taking into account all of the people out here that got it that they don't know about, which means it's considerably less, I don't need to do it if my odds of even going to the hospital are less than 5 out of 100. It's a numbers game to me. And I'm like, why should I bother? I don't need to do it. And that's all I said. I evaluated the numbers, and the numbers said I didn't really need to do it. So I said, why should I even take a chance for, even a slight chance of some kind of a problem? I don't need to do it. And that was like all I said. The next week, you're out of KPFK. You're not allowed to say that crap.
Man, what a horrible. You're just trying to share your own story, Garland, and then they have to punish you like that. And I used to think more highly of KPFK. We thought they were that one entity here in LA that represented the voice of the people, all the the public funding, and we need your help. Little did we know that they also bow down when they to the oligarchy when they need to, and they have to keep people in line and make examples. We saw it just happen to Don DeBar. He had a show. They just said, we have to suspend it indefinitely, and they made up some reason. We had him tell his story. This just happened. He was covering Trump during the countdown to the election, and they didn't like his coverage. I think it was either on Ukraine or something didn't sit well. Maybe it was that Trump wanted to end the war in Ukraine by stop funding this upward transfer of wealth. I don't know what it was, but yeah, happened to him too.
I got attacked there regularly. The other show hosts, the callers would call in and they would say, "Man, the other show hosts are attacking you," and I'm like, "Well, they're welcome to come on my show anytime they want to and give me their position." And apparently, like whoever was running the station said, "Hey, you can go on Garland show." No, I don't want to go on Garland show. And I'm like, I'm just going to throw out the facts. I've got data. I've got links and articles, and any position that I take, I can substantiate my position, and they can come on and they can substantiate their position. I'm not trying to prove them wrong. Yeah, I'm not giving them the data and the facts. I'll give it to the listeners and let the listeners decide. And if the person says I'm right, I'll say, well, that's fine. We'll let the listeners decide. They wouldn't come on. Yeah. And it was the Ukraine stuff too and all that. And I'm like, the facts say what they are. I'm going to take the position I am. So, it is what it is. And that's why mainstream media and a lot of these mainstream outlets and even some mainstream, a lot of this stuff is suffering because people want to be able to talk about things. You know what I mean? People want to be able to get it off their chest. And if they can't find it in the mainstream, they're going to search where they can. And they're hurting themselves by not allowing, even if you don't agree with somebody, bring them on and let them give their side. But you know what I think it is? Here's it. If I know I'm wrong, I can't afford to have somebody come on and challenge me. I think oftentimes their positions are so brittle and easily debunked that they can't afford for guys like us who actually have data, who say, well, I'm taking this position. Here's some historical context. This happened in this year at this time. Here's an article that shows it. They can't afford that because they're just taking positions based on their ideology or who they support, whether it's Zionism or imperialism, whatever the case. And when we come on and hit them with facts, data, history, etc., they get blown out of the water, and they'd rather just attack us, do personal and individual attacks, and try to shut our mouths. That's their only option. In a way, I don't really blame them. What else are they going to do?
Yeah. And you can tell who's on the right side of things, who wants to take the interview, who wants to make the appearance, who wants to have the discussion. You can always tell who's on the right side of things. Who's avoiding, they're the ones that are not prepared for the battle because they don't have they don't have the data, they don't have the arguments, and they run, and that's how it goes. So that's how you can tell. If you guys are wondering, if you haven't done your own research on a particular topic and you're like, I wonder whose side I should look at, just see who's running from the interview. That's who's not being honest. Whoever's running away is the one not being honest. The one that wants to engage is probably the one being more honest. So that's our take moving forward. Garland, I had his two different stories you could do here. Sure. We had an update on Ukraine and an audit going on, but I guess we're on the subject of the medical freedom movement. Let's just call it the medical freedom movement. And we know that this RFK thing is happening, this hearing. Can we maybe get to both? I know I don't have you for too long.
Whatever, you know how I am. Whatever, throw a question at me and we'll talk about it.
Okay. I think this one's really important. I'm going to throw this banner up. Let's just cut to the Bernie Sanders story with RFK Jr. Okay, so Bernie Sanders seems to be in bed with Big Pharma. RFK Jr. has got his HHS confirmation hearings this week, as early as we're hearing as tomorrow. Let's walk the viewers through what's happening here, and I want to get your take on this, Garland, because this is in the realm of what you've been talking about. We're talking about who doesn't want to take who doesn't want to have the conversation. That's what we're seeing here, and it's scary as we're counting down to this. What do they have in store for RFK Jr.? And already, I mean, this is NPR. Again, another news outlet that we thought used to be news. It's not. You could say hit or miss. You can do that. But in this case is absolutely miss. This came out today. This is 7 things about RFK Jr. you should know ahead of his of his Senate hearings. And this is again, so this is all propaganda. This is what they're telling us leading into this. So on Wednesday, RFK Jr. is set to appear before the Senate Finance Committee. So this is tomorrow, the first of two confirmation hearings as President Donald Trump's nominee for Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services. If confirmed, Kennedy would have sweeping control over a suite of 18 agencies, including the CDC and the FDA, the NIH, and the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, let's see a briefing of the 7 things they want us to be aware of. And keep in mind, guys, you guys who've been following this, you know that the 7 things that they came up with at NPR are all designed to make us afraid of this man who wants to have a conversation about our health. Here we are. Oh, wait. Oh, here, one more, and then we'll get to this. Is the most important hearing of all of Trump's cabinet picks. As we know, we agree with that. This is the most important one. This is huge. This is the MAHA movement merging with the MAGAs because of food and big food, big pharma, doing something for the health of the American people, make America healthy again. The HHS secretary has enormous power over domestic health care, global health, and directly oversees tens of thousands of scientists, doctors, and nurses. So this is, to quote a guy, this is huge. Now let's look at the 7 things NPR wants to warn us about RFK Jr. Okay, 1. For decades, he's spread misinformation about childhood vaccines. Well, that's not true. He wants conversations. So let's just substitute the words conversations about childhood vaccines. 2, scientists worry.
Well, can I comment on?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah,
jump in. That's just an assertion. Misinformation. They don't tell you what. You know, we've seen times when people have said things that were absolutely true, and they've said that's misinformation. We've said, remember the whole business about what is it called when your immune system builds a resistance, natural
immunity.
Natural immunity, right? In the beginning of the whole thing, if you put something up, just a comment about natural, I put something up like, natural immunity, blah, 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 like a sentence on Facebook. They took it down and they marked it misinformation. Now, after a while, by the end of things, when Fauci was talking about natural immunity, they wouldn't take it down anymore. So misinformation can be, you can tell it can be absolutely true and they can say it's misinformation. And 6 months later, they can say it's not misinformation. So when they say he spread misinformation, it says absolutely nothing except he said things we don't like. Yeah. For them, that could change.
So we have to interpret all 7 of these. There's what they're saying and then what they really are saying. So we know that they mean to say he's been trying to have conversations about childhood vaccines, which they don't want to have. Number 2, scientists worry he won't prepare the U.S. for the risk of the bird flu. Oh, the scientists worry that he won't be prepared for the money grab, the money-making machine of big pharma for bird flu. That's what they're saying, right, Garland?
Well, if I was the editor, I would reject that. I would send that article back to him and say, you just told me 7 things about RFK Jr. That's about scientists who are worried. Unnamed, unknown scientists. We don't know who they are, and they're worried. Well, perhaps they need therapy. Maybe they have anxiety attacks. That don't have a damn thing to do with RFK Jr. Well, scientists are worried that Garland Nixon might turn into a werewolf in the next full moon and tear everybody's guts out on the streets of Lower London. Get the hell out of here. How unprofessional is it to put some trash out there to say, we're going to write an article about Garland Nixon. Scientists worry that Garland may. See, this is the kind of trash. This is not journalism. An elementary school kid. When I was in 9th grade and they said, write a story about a bear, I would have understood that the story had to actually be about the bear.
Yeah. Not about, what Johnny or Sally said about the bear. And I heard from so-and-so and oh my God, you know that the bear slept with, right.
So what do we know? Scientists are worried. Which scientists? Who? That he won't prepare the U.S. Now, here's what I love, the caveats. Scientists are worried that he won't prepare us, not even for the bird flu, for the risk of the bird flu. Could you have enough caveats there? What a piece of trash. Where is their editor? Fire the editor. How can you let that sentence go through? Hey, we're worried he might prepare us for what? The risk of the bird flu. So I don't think that's enough to to say, well, we certainly can't vote for that because there's some scientists, who the hell knows who, and they're worried that there could be a risk in the future. And if there is a risk, maybe he won't get out of here. Trash, garbage,
total garbage. I love this one because financial conflicts are raising eyebrows, right? Because Dr. Fauci, he didn't have any conflicts with financial conflicts or anyone else in the position of power with health, health position for us. No, just RFK Jr. I wonder what his financial conflicts is. That he's not tied to big pharma like you are, like you guys are. He's not tied. Is that the conflict? Is that he's not playing ball with you? That's I don't know what they mean by that.
They left out some words. His lack of financial conflicts are raising eyebrows. That's the problem. I mean, like I didn't know this. We found out that like they have patents for stuff at like the CDC and the NIH, and like they recommend that people take medication, and they're literally making $1 million off the medication that they're recommending that we take. And yet they're concerned about his financial conflicts. Well, I don't know. Maybe we can get Joe Biden to preemptively pardon him all the way back to 2015, like he did, or his entire family and Dr. Fauci, because we know they didn't do anything wrong. Well, there we go. You know what? When they say he's got financial conflicts, Trump should say, well, I'm going to handle that. I'm going to give him a preemptive pardon all the way back to 2014. Will that serve to fix things, guys? Apparently, you don't have a problem with it in the past. So I'm sure that'll take care of number 3, preemptive pardon for 10 years.
There you go. Oh, and look at this. He wants number 4. He wants a major shakeup in scientific research. We can't have a shakeup with the data that you've been wrong about for the last, for at least the last 4 or 5 years. Everything's been wrong, but we don't want to shake that up. How are you guys getting the research? What about Rachel Maddow, who told us right to our faces that we have new data new scientific research in that says if you get this shot, you will not only you will not get COVID, you will not spread COVID, and we can finally get back to normal. That's still up on MSNBC's website. It's still on their YouTube channel. They have not redacted it. It's still there. So RFK wants a major shakeup in scientific research that led to that garbage reporting. Even if you want to say Rachel didn't know, she was just given the research. She was just reading it off the card. Okay, where did that research come from? Who's responsible for that? Those were lies. Those misinformed people. So he wants a shakeup. That should be a good thing, not a warning.
For instance, I don't know. I can think of some major shakeups in of scientific research that he opposes. Gain of function. He's been pretty clear with that. The gain of function that Fauci told the Congress wasn't happening under oath, that was actually happening. So could that be it? Hey, gain of function, we're going to make a new superbug that kills everybody. Wouldn't want to do that. Oh my God. He wants a major shakeup. He doesn't want to create the next superbug that's going to kill everybody. For God's sake. Yeah, I think, you know what? I tell you, I got to add something. Here's something that reminds me of. I'm watching this video of AOC, and she's talking about how the problem with Trump is that he is violating some of the norms. And I thought to myself, so you are the party of the norms? The norms have homeless people under every friggin' freeway overpass. The norms have people impoverished. The norms almost got us nuked by the Russians and the Chinese and every damn body else. You know, perhaps you should understand that the reason Trump won was because people voted for him that didn't vote for him before, or they stayed the hell home because they were sick of the norms. People want a major shakeup. A lot of people may not like Trump, but they didn't care. They just wanted somebody to come in the White House with a sledgehammer and start swinging it in all directions. Yeah. So the idea that, the major shakeup, well, man, people may challenge some of the norms. We couldn't have that. No. That's why we're able to do a show. That's why people watch our shows, because they're sick and tired of the norms. A major shakeup. How horrible would that be? We wouldn't want that, would we? No, we wouldn't want the definition of a major shakeup.
Yeah. And what you're saying about the people that came together to vote for Trump because RFK Jr. was in place leads to number 5. This should be a good thing. This should be at least get them curious. His long-held abortion views are polar opposite of GOP. That should tell you something that the party was willing to embrace. The MAGAs were willing to embrace. It's not so much that Trump endorsed RFK Jr. It's that the MAGA crowd endorsed RFK Jr. or it's the crowd itself. I was going to say it wasn't that RFK Jr. endorsed them. It was that they endorsed him. They said this is so important to us that we don't care about if we disagree on other things ideologically. This is that important, and we're willing to get behind you. Welcome. The party that's supposed to be the non-inclusive party is having their arms open like this, while the party that I was told was the inclusive party was like, get out and stay out, you SOB. So it completely reversed itself. They should really be interested in why this is like this. NPR should be looking at number 5 and saying, I wonder why they embraced him like they did.
How about this too? I remember when Obama picked Bill Gates as his like defense guy or whatever, and he was a Republican, and they said, oh, that's great. Hillary picked Tim Kaine as her vice president, who was anti-abortion, right? Mm-hmm. And when people said, hey, you know, some of the Democrats made some noise about that, and they used this term has often been used about the Lincoln administration, team of rivals. Remember that term? That was what they used to say about the Abraham Lincoln administration, because he had a bunch of people that he didn't agree with, and he says, hey, we get together and we work things out, blah, 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 blah. There's a lot more to it than that with Lincoln. You got to understand that he was holding a very fragile political coalition. One party had just collapsed. The Whigs had kind of collapsed. Then he had the Know Nothing Party. Then he had the, bottom line is this. His team of rivals is what he had to hold his fragile coalition together, and he did an unbelievable job of it. My point being, why is it okay for Hillary Clinton to pick Tim Kaine, who was anti-abortion, right? And you brag about it and say team of rivals. And at the time, I'm like, well, I hate both of their guts, but okay, who cares? You know what I mean? They're both a bunch of neoliberal warmongers as far as I'm concerned. But my point is, now it's a bad thing if a member of a particular party allies with somebody who they have disagreements with. We're not supposed to do that anymore. We're supposed to be a brainwashed cult, and we all agree on absolutely everything, no matter what. There's no disagreements here. That's called a cult.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a cult. And the fact that they're unwilling to see that the MAGAs literally opened their arms and said, come into our movement. We accept you. We don't care about our differences otherwise. This is that important. This issue is that important to us. And NPR can't even see that. Or we know they can see it. Their job is to make us not see it. That's why it's on this list of 7 warnings. Number 6, he won't accept, and this one is just, come on. He won't accept the fact that HIV causes AIDS. Okay, so what this is a reference to is the drug AZT.
Yes.
Which Dr. Fauci pushed on the AIDS community that was the LGBT community in the 80s. A lot we know up in San Francisco, we know that it was pushed on everyone as this is how you prevent yourself getting AIDS, and everyone that took AZT got AIDS once they figured out that if you didn't take this horrible drug, you could actually treat HIV and maybe prevent getting AIDS in other ways that were less profitable for big pharma. Then we had a problem. And there's a whole movie made about this called The Dallas Buyers Club, where we're rooting for Matthew McConaughey, who's taking on the CDC, taking on literally Dr. Fauci is the bad guy in that movie. And we gave him Academy Award. I say we as in the people cheered that performance. We rooted for him during the movie. Why is it in real life that when we step outside of our movie theaters and our popcorn, we then don't cheer for the guy taking on the system? We're then on Fauci's side. So that's what this references to, Garland, as you know. Number 6, he won't accept. No, he challenged a drug that hurt people. That's what that is. And that's a great thing that he did that.
I've never seen anything or heard anything. And I have interviewed him on my show where he said anything that HIV doesn't cause, that he's even, his thing is about the medications.
Yes.
And the efficacy of the medications and the danger of the medications that are used to treat these things. Yes. I don't know. But, again, they don't care if it's true or false. When you look at the unprofessional nature of these claims, the juvenile writing, whoever the hell wrote them, whoever let him go through it, looks like some idiot wrote this stuff. If it weren't so evil, it would be laughable to read this crap, and that's, I'm supposed to look at that, and that's supposed to influence my decision.
Yeah, no, it
influences my decision to ever read anything from NPR again.
That's right. That's right. And the wording is so bad because it's their way of going, see, we're not saying that he said that HIV doesn't cause it. We're saying that he won't accept it. So we're leaving it to interpretation based on the things we don't like that he's saying when he's talking about drugs that hurt people, that were supposed to be treatment for HIV. They hurt people. That's what he's talking about. Well, we're going to pretend he means something else, and he's not willing to accept the narrative. Well, that's what we're going to, number 6, what it should say is he's not willing to accept big pharma narrative when it comes to treatment for HIV and AIDS and what is effective, what isn't. That's what it should say. Let's look at the last one. I'm going to take the banner off here. He wants to focus on lifestyle and chronic disease, but hasn't detailed how. So concerning, Garland. I don't see a plan, so I just like to stick with the crappy one we have right now. That's if I'm reading this, I'm like, yeah, he doesn't have I'd like to stick with the thing that's not working. That makes sense.
Right. And, okay, well, let's start here. He wants to focus on lifestyle and chronic disease, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of your major diseases, there's some level of lifestyle that, can deal with it. I've known plenty of people that have had various diseases, and I know a lot of people that are into natural healing, and they've gone to their natural. I'll put it like this. I had overall healthy person, and I go out of my way to, to do natural healing and health and exercise. Okay. I had very bad back pain from car accidents. My doggone L4 and L5 are all mangled up, right? And I had bad pain. And the doctor said, look, just take it as long as you can and get surgery. So, I went to my herbal people and all that. And they said, Garland, you got to cut out sugar. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, sugar causes inflammation. And so they did that, right? Okay. So I cut out sugar and they, gave me some other things. Then I went to a chiropractor. We did, all right, here's what you're going to do. And literally like twice a day, every day for 15 minutes, I take a big bag of soup, frozen vegetables and put it on my back for 15 minutes twice a day to take down the inflammation, things like that, right? Things that you don't have to actually spend a lot of money. I bought one bag of frozen vegetables. I've been using it for 2 years. Okay. But so the bottom line is this. So it was lifestyle. I have improved now. Guess what happened within maybe 6 months after I started that regimen, I was back on the basketball court playing full court basketball with guys half my age, running up and down, jumping, getting smashed into walls, and on and went about my business, right? So the bottom line was lifestyle, chronic illness, all of that stuff can often be addressed in alternative ways. And when a lot of times modern medicine just says, go get surgery or take this. And there are other things, if we start focusing on, let me add this too. Most people don't have acute disease. They die. You get a heart attack, you're done, right? Oftentimes, maybe not. But oftentimes people have some long chronic heart problem. And like everybody I know at my age, you get your 50s, 60 in that age, you know what I mean? Something hurts, something bothers you, you got some problem. Once you hit your 40s or up around 50, you live with some chronic crap. Right. What's wrong with focusing on what most people are dealing with? Chronic disease, chronic pain, and changing their lifestyle to health. I have people that I grew up with, and they're like, wow, Garland, you still look good for your age. And I say, I don't say it, but I think it ain't an accident. You know what I mean? I'm not laying around, with my hand on the remote, sucking down beers all day and eating, filling my face with processed food. I do making an effort. I exercise. After this, I'm heading to the gym. Yeah. So I think what he's talking about, they try to make it look like that saying something that's good for people is bad.
Yeah.
Like he's some kind of a kook because he wants to talk about lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, I mean, we talk lifestyle. COVID was the big giveaway when we weren't told. No public health official had the sense or maybe they just forgot. Maybe it slipped their mind because it was such a hard job. I know, we all the lockdowns, nobody could do anything. Schools were shut down, small businesses gone forever. Communities just locked down. The gyms were locked down. You couldn't go to the gym.
You couldn't go outside and get vitamin D from the sun.
They arrest people for surfing out in Venice. We go out to Venice. There's a basketball court that you want to go play basketball at. It's boarded up. The skateboard parks are filled with sand in the skate park. It's insane the amount of effort they put into not having us exercise, not having us outside, not having us getting our exercise and our just our well-being and our in our engagement with people, and just the stuff that we know is about good health and good nutrition and all this stuff. They didn't tell us about vitamin D. They didn't tell us about vitamin C or zinc. We don't even have to talk about ivermectin. That's another conversation, but just the basic stuff you could get over the counter very easily. They forgot to tell us. I wonder why. So that should have been the giveaway for everyone. By the way, here in LA, I got to make this point too, Garland. If you didn't figure it out at COVID, you certainly should be figuring it out by the LA fires, because the last thing they're not telling us now, they are not telling us to put on our masks. That's funny, because that's all you heard all day with COVID. Mask, 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 mask. 6 feet distance, 6 feet distance, mask, mask, mask. All of a sudden, we have these chemicals and horrible stuff in the air right now in LA. And if you go outside, you best put on an N95 mask. They won't tell you that. There's droves of people outside, good people out there trying to help people, fire victims right now. And not one of them has a mask on. I think it's insane. These are the people that followed the instructions of the CDC, followed the instructions of Fauci for 4 years. And it didn't cross their mind to maybe the air is bad right now. They're not wearing a mask. It's the craziest thing, Garland. I'm in the twilight zone yet again. And I know why. It's because they weren't given the instructions of what to do. And that's how you know our health agencies have not just failed us, they've deliberately sabotaged us.
And we already have an instance to reference from 9/11. All these people that went up there and they worked at where all these horrible things were burned, and so there's all of this dust all over the place with all this horrible stuff you're smelling, and all these people got terrible cancers. A lot of 9/11 people got all these young people, all this stuff, and they kind of admitted after a while, I guess they breathed a lot of bad stuff. Boom. So we already know that if you've got a fire with all these homes that were burned, all kind of chemicals, all kinds of plastics, you name it. So all of this stuff is now dust in the air. You're breathing that. Based on 9/11 alone, you and I would say, hey, I don't breathe that crap. No. And good and well, if you put on a mask, 20 minutes later, you're going to look, it's going to be all black around where you were breathing in. Well, all that crap is going to be there. That somebody else said, yes, asbestos and everything, but but we can't have RFK. We can't have him in charge of anything because he's concerned about lifestyle and long-term illnesses. Wouldn't want that.
Yeah.
There's no money in that.
There's no money in that. There's no money in health. There's only money in death.
If you just think, like I went to the doctor last week. And I'm not bragging. It is what it is. I have a lot of friends the same way in my age group, right, who are into healthy stuff. I went to the doctor. Tell me what medications you take. I said none. They're like, none. They said no. They're like, oh, that's great. And I thought, well, it didn't happen by accident. Maybe I'm fortunate in some ways, but in other ways, I do the things necessary to try to, as best I can, to address it. And if he says, let's deal with lifestyle, guess what? Maybe perhaps you'll have more people going to the doctor who are not taking any medications, and they really don't want to see that, right? Yeah. What happens now if some guy like me, I think I was 120 over 85. I'm 63 years old. I've never had high blood pressure, but when I go to the gym, I'll be sweating like a pig, right? What happens if you got a bunch of people 50 and 60 years old who are exercising and eating healthy, and now they don't all have diabetes, they don't all have high blood pressure, they don't, you know what I mean? And they're looking at some herbals, the juicing. I juice regularly. They're juicing carrots and they're juicing, whatever the hell they're juicing. And all of a sudden, you got people who don't need as many medications. Pfizer ain't gonna be happy about that. Yeah. So they don't want people to be healthy. There ain't no money in that. They want us all sick as possible, not quite dead. They want us to live really sick for a long time.
And I'll just have to end with this one because this is part of the story, Garland, and this hits home for me, and I'm assuming it probably does for you too, because we heard Bernie Sanders so much of his movement in 2016, primarily in the 2015-2016 era, this Our Revolution, was about taking on these corporations. We're going to take on big pharma. We're going to take on, right, all the things we were going to take on. And he was the guy pushing for Medicare for all. He was the guy pushing for everybody having a right to health care, and understood, and he was articulate about that pharma was corrupt and was not looking out for our health. And he wanted to do that. And so we felt like he was going to champion this as an independent, using the Democratic Party as a mechanism to get this change to happen. Turns out the whole thing was a big scam, and it's really bad. It's really bad, Garland, really bad. If you don't know, if people watching don't know this, this is the Senate Democrats preview vaccine arguments ahead of RFK Jr.'s hearings, and Bernie Sanders is the one who assembled this room of scientists to talk about the benefits of vaccines. This is okay. So you got in Washington, this is by Rachel Korzang, and this is stat politics section. When Senate Democrats huddled with prominent public health experts on Wednesday, this is tomorrow, to discuss the benefits of vaccines, it felt like they were preparing for battle. The senators peppered the experts with questions about ideas espoused by vaccine critics, the powers of the Secretary of Health and Human Services, and the best strategies to highlight the benefits of vaccines in the season that was broadcast publicly. Here's a clip of Bernie, and then you guys, when you're watching this, ask yourself: is this somebody who's actually trying to have a conversation about health? And why wasn't RFK Jr. in that room with the scientists, so you could actually ask him directly what's going on? Well, we know the answer to that question, because the people avoiding the conversation are the people who have something to hide. Bernie Sanders has something to hide.
It's a game changer. I just told.
Sorry, wrong clip. This is, holy crap, that was mislabeled. My bad. That was Scott Ritter. Your friend,
my buddy.
Okay, I'm gonna preset that one again. My bad. Here we go. Bernie Sanders has something to hide. Here we go.
I mean, I think the point of what we're trying to do today is to make it clear that we potentially face a massive health hazard, maybe especially for our children. And I think the point that Senator Markey made a moment ago, what was it, back in 1900, 18% of kids never made it to 5. That's just an enormous reality that has to be addressed. So in other words, we have made, with all of the problems that we have today, and there are many, we have made enormous progress in public health and in saving children's lives. And what, in a sense, I am hearing from all of you is that is in danger, that we may revert back to those terrible days when so many children died at the age of 1 or 2 or 3.
And then, so this is the Kyle Becker's summary. Democrats like Bernie Sanders want you to believe that they are opposing RFK Jr.'s nomination on principle. Big Pharma money suggests they have millions of reasons to stop reform to America's medical system. The U.S. has a healthcare crisis. It's time to put a stop to it. Hashtag MAHA. And if you guys don't believe us about the money train, because always follow the money, this is Bernie Sanders. This is the top 20 recipients during the 2019-2020 presidential election period from PHARMA. Sanders is number one with $1.4 million. Bernie Sanders, number one, a far cry from the we're going to take on Big Pharma from 4 years earlier. Garland, what are you? Have you seen this? This guy talking like with that voice and I care. He's a complete fraud.
You know, in the early 90s, when Clinton wanted to do NAFTA and all that kind of stuff, right? Bernie took all the right positions. Oh, you're going to destroy. He predicted everything correctly. He talked about how bad it was. And he even predicted you're going to lose the unions, the Democratic Party. He took all the right positions, right? And then Clinton passed NAFTA along with, mostly Republicans and some Democrats, and he got it through. But next thing you know, 2 years later, Bernie's on the stump. We got to vote for Bill Clinton because the Republicans are right. So here's Bernie. He's going to take some good positions here and there. But when the machine says, Bernie, we want this, he's always on board. When it's time to say, we got to support Joe because he's a friend of mine. I've been friends with Joe for 30 years. As soon as he, it's like the guy's committing genocide. He's trying to friggin' start wars with everybody. He's sanctioning the world. He's a maniac.
Yeah.
And he's got Blinken. These people are sociopaths, Bernie. No, we've got to support him because Trump something or other. So, Bernie's worthless. Bernie's worthless. Bernie, he's worse than worthless because in a way, he's the worst of them. He provides this phony, faux left-wing flank for the Democratic Party. So we can believe that somewhere in the Democratic Party, there's some lefties that are fighting for us. That's his job, to pretend like they're there fighting for us until they need him to do whatever evil deed they need to be done. Bernie's on board. And then after he does that, he'll jump right back across and say, we need to cut money from the Pentagon budget or something like that he knows isn't going to happen. I mean, I can't stand Bernie. I mean, he's the worst of them to me. Be who you are. If you're just a puppet for the machine, be a puppet for the machine. But do not try to pretend to me that you're some fighter for all things that are good and right. And then every time the machine needs you to stand up against RFK Jr. or to call Maduro a warmonger or whatever, whoever the machine points to, that country, when we want to overthrow them, they've got lots of oil. Bernie's going to be right there to say, yeah, the leader of that country's a dictator. I can't stand the guy.
No, and then we have this. This is an interesting. Yeah, we should go. Sanders also got cash from the arms dealers in 2020. So they're all the same. They're all the same. They all take the money from where they need to take it, and then they position themselves how they need to position it. But Bernie and the squad, these people are the worst of the worst because they pretend to be the empathetic ones. They pretend with their voice that they talk like this, and we care about the people. We're going to go out of our way and fight for women's rights and fight for workers' rights and fight for immigrant rights and fight for anti-war and you fight for healthcare. All these things. These are the reasons why I left the Democratic Party, was because it turned out you weren't fighting for any of those things. No. You just took money for those things. You took votes for those things. You got us to work for you for free. You got us to knock on doors. You got us to go around and champion your ideas and champion the color blue. And we did it for free. You didn't pay us. We paid you. What a scam that was. What a effing scam. And now you have the Mahas who have aligned, and we know this. We know when you look at the numbers, Trump won primarily because of the Mahas. These are the people that would have been behind Bernie if Bernie had won in 2016. They're people that were for get people taking on big pharma corruption and military-industrial complex corruption. The Mahas followed RFK Jr. right over to the red team, and they voted for Trump because they said, RFK Jr. is our hope. He's going to do these things against big food, against big pharma, make America healthy again. If he doesn't make this confirmation this week, if RFK Jr. does not make it this week, this is going to be the biggest letdown of this entire presidency. That's my prediction, Garland. I see that there's going to be an uprising. I think the Mahas are not tied to MAGA the way MAGA was tied to MAGA. I think that they have no problem getting angry, getting very angry and very loud if he doesn't make it in. And Bernie Sanders will be a big reason why if he doesn't make it.
You make a good point, because just like I said about Lincoln, Trump has a fragile coalition. He has a strong base, the old MAGA people, and they are what they are, right? But he didn't win just because of them. You got a lot of black males. I know a lot of black folks that voted for Trump, and that was about economics. And let me tell you something. One of the groups that were the least vaccinated were black males. And what you heard, if you ask a lot of black men, you get votes. Oh, hell no. And you know what they'd always say? Dude, I heard of the Tuskegee experiment. They had a history.
Yes.
Right. And they're like, I don't trust the government. They ain't put nothing in me. I heard about the Tuskegee experiment. Nope, not happening. Total mistrust. Right. So a lot of them, there's a lot of black men. They, economics, the Tuskegee experiment, the whole COVID thing, they felt they got screwed there. Some lost their jobs, all kinds of stuff. So they were on board for the same reason. So Trump has a coalition, as I said about Lincoln. He's got a fragile coalition. That coalition could break apart. He could lose some parts of it. And he needs to, if he doesn't have the votes, he needs to go to the Republicans that don't vote and say, you better damn vote for this, or you're getting primaried, and I will come to your district, and I will come up with somebody to primary you myself. And I will come to your district, and I will direct all the money I can to them. And I will personally stump for them until you're gone. So either you vote for them and anything that comes from you. I'm going to tell everybody else in the Senate, if you have a bill, if you have anything that has your name on it, it's dead when it hits my desk. So you have no power in the Senate. Anything you touch is radioactive when it comes to my desk, and I'll get you out of here. They don't have no choice if he comes down. And I've seen it done when I used to be up on Capitol Hill. I've seen it done before. So that's what Trump needs to do. I think him and you know what's interesting? Two people, and the two people that were both Democrats. I think Tulsi's important. I think Tulsi is very important. I got my issues with Tulsi about Israel. Fair enough, right? But when it comes
and
to
RFK Jr., I mean, let's be clear.
Yeah, I got some, right, exactly. Yeah. Look, I've got to. It is what it is, right? Yeah. But there's a lot of things about Tulsi Gabbard when it comes to foreign policy that are non-traditional. And I want a non-traditional candidate. I'm sick of Mike Pompeo and John Bolton's. So those two people are non-traditional candidates. You're not going to get a candidate that you're completely thrilled with. But I want non-traditional candidates. And I think those are two extremely important candidates for Donald Trump.
Yeah, I agree. And it's going to make a damn big difference if they, for any reason, that either of those two don't get in. There's going to be uproar. I wish the Democrats had it in them to be angry when Joe Biden lets them down or when Obama let them down. They don't. They don't have it in them. I do count on some of the Trump voters being angry when he gets things wrong. And that's good. That's a good thing. We want to see that. We want to see pushback because that's how politics is supposed to work. We're supposed to hold our elected officials accountable, particularly the ones we actually vote for. That's the thing that people miss on the left. They think that we have to protect your people. You're scoring a point for Trump. No, hold the people you elect accountable. You more than anyone have to do that because we gave you money. We gave you votes. You got to do this thing. So let's hope both of them get in there. I guess we're going to know later this week on RFK Jr. So this is a big deal. I'm edge of my seat on this one. So
yeah, it's very exciting to me. Yeah. I'd love to see him get in because that could be another thing that got me off KPFK. But when I remember when he, I think I violated all of their norms. But it's my nature. But I remember when nobody else would. Few people would enter, and I would bring him on. I got a Pacifica show in DC also. I'd bring him on my shows. I'd interview him. I'd talk to him, what have you. I got heat. I got pushback. But I didn't care. I'm like, well, who cares? I've had this show for a lot of years. You could throw me off, but you're going to have to throw me off for saying what I believe, right?
Yeah.
So, I think we need a discussion about medical issues in this country that is not just driven by the CEO of Pfizer. I think we need to change things so that the leadership of the National Institutes of Health and the CDC are not just a revolving door where they go from Pfizer and Merck or whatever into these positions and then back out and back in, and it's just a revolving door. We need to at least have a discussion about that. And I feel like if RFK Jr. comes in, that we may be able to do something different. I don't know for sure if we will, but at least there's a chance. Yeah, I'd rather have a chance.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Garland Nixon, thank you so much. I know you probably have to get going right now. I think we might have run out of time here. So I wanted to cover
I got time if you do, but if you're out of time, that's fine.
Let's do the.
I got another 20 minutes.
Okay, great. Let's do the Ukraine story. We like to call this.
Oh, that's my foundation, man. I can't let Ukraine. How could you not have the Ukraine story?
How could I let Garland Nixon lead the show without talking about Ukraine? We're gonna call this story. Well, we like to call this segment World War III Watch. So let's go ahead and do it. Here we go. It's time for World War III Watch. Let's just face it, it's already started. I'm here with Garland Nixon. We're going to talk about the happenings in Ukraine since Trump has gotten into office, some of the hits and misses, but we are getting a report right away in the last 24 hours. I've seen BBC is reporting that we now know, and you guys knew this, we knew this, everybody watching knew this, but this has been confirmed by BBC now that 90,000 Russian troops have died in the Ukraine war. whereas Ukraine has suffered nearly 1 million losses. And now we're getting a report from Jim Ferguson that there is an audit that is being demanded by Trump. And he's saying this: Trump calls for full audit of Ukraine funding. Donald Trump has demanded a complete audit of the billions sent to Ukraine. And the globalists, including Biden, must be terrified of what might emerge. For too long, Americans have been kept in the dark about where their hard-earned tax dollars are going. And then this audit could uncover shocking truths about corruption, mismanagement, and backdoor deals that serve the elite, not the people. Transparency is coming, and the globalist agenda is shaking. Buckle up. Is this too good to be true, or is this actually happening? Garland Nixon, please tell us, what are your thoughts on this audit? Is this a real deal? Is this happening?
I don't know. I'm wary because I do know that intelligence uses things like this, like Ukraine, to launder weapons to, like, some of their proxies around the world. They use it to launder, money for black operations around the world. So I'm sure that whatever's found that the CIA was doing crooked won't be let out. But you got to ask yourself, we're sending money. Here's something that's obvious. So they're like, hey, we're at war with the Russians. And therefore we need money. So here's another 100 billion. Okay, fair enough. Well, I oppose all of that stuff. So they get their money. Explain this to me. Old Sam Bankman-Fried had this crooked crypto company, right? With like these back doors for money to disappear and all this stuff. Okay.
That's right.
So you're sending money to Kiev for supposedly buying weapons, and they decided to invest in crypto. What the hell was the Kiev regime doing, putting money in crypto?
Yeah.
And we didn't say, hey, we sent you this to buy tanks and you're buying crypto. Something's wrong with that. They're like, no, Bitcoin's going to do great in the long run. We're investing for our old age. Really? It's absurd. Something's crooked there. That money went in. That was, I think, a CIA operation anyway. So you got so many things going there. Let's dive even bring up the bio research labs.
Oh my gosh. The labs, Burisma, the whole bit. It's all there. It's all, by the way, this is the stuff that was in Hunter Biden's laptop that everybody coordinated not to let people know in time for the 2020 election, and then bragged about it. Washington Post, New York Times, bragging about not letting the people know that this information was in that laptop. It wasn't Russian disinformation. It was legit. And it showed the paper trail and the timeline, really. The timeline, the 2014 of setting up these labs through the Burisma. And it was the coordination with whether Hunter Biden on these boards. And we knew that was coordinated with the pharma companies. And it's not a coincidence, Garland. I know, we reported this last week, and I'm sure you were covering this as well, where we saw the Fauci preemptive pardon, which dates back to 2014, along with Hunter Biden, 2014. An 11-year clock on a preemptive pardon. How interesting. Seems that interesting that the mainstream media doesn't want to report that part, but we're reporting it. It's all part of this, right? Is all that going to be part of this apparent audit that might happen and expose that?
Well, I just think the CIA stuff, they can't, because, one of the things they left out is on the board with Hunter Biden was a guy named Cofer Black, former assistant director for the CIA, right? Who else went on the board? The guy right now, his name is Amos Hochstein. Amos Hochstein is the so-called Biden's so-called envoy to Israel, right? Who, might I add, a former tank commander for the IDF, right? But when the U.S. overthrew the government of Ukraine, Amos Hochstein worked for the State Department. He quit his job and then went and got on the board, quit the State Department and got on the board of Naftogaz, which is the official gas company of the Ukrainian government. Stayed there for a couple of years, left. And then Joe Biden hired him with a specific job. You know what that was?
What was it?
Dealing with Nord Stream. Look it up. And then Nord Stream blew. Hochstein, anywhere there's criminal activity and crooked, shiesty pockets to be filled, you'll find Amos Hochstein. But bottom line is, again, what does that tell you? That it was all a money laundering, criminal, crooked operation. There was an article a while back, and it said that the CIA, I got to find that article. It literally said in the article that the CIA director went to Ukraine to talk about to talk to Zelensky about all of the basically the theft. And basically, if you read the article, it's basically they said, hey, you're peeling a little too much on the top, off the top, buddy. You know, you go ahead and get your fair share, but don't steal all of it. I mean, literally, there was an article in mainstream news that was easily interpreted as the CIA just went there and says, come on, you know, we understand you got to eat. Everybody's going to get theirs, but you're taking this thing a little too far. So it was all so much criminal activity. I think that they got you know, Zelensky, I think his days are numbered because he knows too much.
Yeah.
And Zelensky's way out is easy. All he has to do is call the Trump administration or Putin and say, look, I got everything. I know everything. And if you'll guarantee my safety, I will give you tell you everything you need to know, because Zelensky knows it all. Otherwise, Zelensky's done. He's done. He's toast. He's finished. But I don't know, because the history of the regime change operation of the U.S. is to overthrow a country and then use that country as a base of operations for all kinds of criminal activity, money laundering, drug movement, all kinds of crimes around the world. Do they really want to open that can of worms? I don't know. But if they did look into it, the amount of criminality would be, you know, limitless. You know, most people don't know this. The FBI, after U.S. overthrew the government of Ukraine in 2014, the FBI, the Comey, they go to Ukraine and open an office called NABU. They're still there, the National Anti-Corruption Bureau, right? But for some reason, they couldn't find any corruption around Hunter Biden. They couldn't find any corruption around, you know what I mean? It's an anti-corruption bureau. What it was a way to smite their enemies. It was a way, and out of that anti-corruption bureau came a lot of this Russiagate stuff back in the 2016, 2017. It was just a Democratic Party operation that the FBI, which is also a criminal organization. Might I add one last thing about the FBI? I got to say this. I always say the most obvious criminal case, if I was investigator, would be the Hunter Biden laptop case, for this reason. How easy is this? Tell me how easy this criminal case is. December 2019, the FBI go to and they pick up Hunter Biden's laptop. This guy calls them and says, I got his laptop, come get it. He has to call them twice. Eventually they come get it, right? Okay. December 2019. Let's see. 10 months later, in October, the FBI comes out and they said, now remember, 10 months ago, they picked up the Hunter Biden laptop. So they've had it. No doubt they've examined it. They know what's in it, right? 10 months later, just before the election, they go to Twitter and Facebook and the media behind all of our backs. We didn't know it. And the FBI says, look, we think the Russians are going to come out with this story about a Hunter Biden laptop. It's a lie. It's a Russian disinformation program. And not only do you need to censor it, we'll be happy to help you censor it. But they had that laptop for 10 months. They knew beyond a reasonable doubt, to a moral certainty, that it wasn't Russian disinformation because they had it for 10 months. And the only reason they got it because the guy called them and asked them to get it and told them, I got it. I called Hunter Biden. He won't come get it. I think I'm going to get in trouble. Come get it. And they said, oh, we think it's Russian disinformation.
Wow.
They knew. They absolutely lied weeks before the election, and they censored it. That is the easiest case of election interference that you'll ever make. Everybody that was involved with doing that has to be charged. You couldn't claim. What are they going to claim? We didn't know. Well, we weren't sure. We thought it might be Russian disinformation, even though we had it for 10 months and examined the damn thing and knew everything that was in it. It is the easiest case. They have to plea out. Anybody charged, there's not even a defense for that.
No, there's no defense. And I think that the new approach to doing these horrible things, today's day, because there's a paper trail of everything, I think one of the techniques is to do things out in the open and then say it out loud and brag about it, which is part of the game to make us go, well, maybe it wasn't. So they're not presenting like they did anything wrong. You have the Washington Post. You got people that are out loud. They're championing the fact that this information was legit. and we kept it from the American people because we're all in this together, Garland. We all have to do whatever we can to stop this monster from getting into office again, and whatever it takes. If it means suspecting some information is fake when we know it's real, if it means keep looking at the calendar and saying we just have to get through Election Day, then we can figure out what it is, or we can then release it, to champion that approach to news and justice and right and wrong, and to say no, that was the right, correct move, and to be proud of that. That's the problem. And so again, like, no one is being charged for this. No one is having to account for this. They're just saying, yeah, we committed a crime, but it was a crime on behalf of the people of the planet, and we were saving the planet from a comet that was coming to kill everyone. And, you got to do whatever you got to do to stop it for the greater good. I think that's the line I remember, Garland. It's for the greater good. So you can break the law for the greater good and then brag about it after.
You just wonder. One of the things that I've thought here, to be quite frank, look, if Trump tried to do some of the things that he's doing without, I'm not going to use the word permission, support, or whatever from some very powerful people, he wouldn't live a day. I feel like this. When I saw all the tech bros, there was like $1.5 trillion worth of tech bros in line sitting in front of them. I saw all this power, right? I had this feeling, and that is, and I don't know what you think about it. I had heard Trump say, "Oh my God, they're going to do I'm afraid they're going to start World War. There'll be a nuclear war. Everything will be obliterated." I heard Elon Musk say, "These people are crazy. They're going to start a nuclear war. We're all going to die." Right? Okay, for you and I, that's one thing. If you're a billionaire, they're like, "Crap, the world is our playground. We can do anything we want. We love it. We're frolicking around the world doing anything we want, and we're going to lose it all. They're going to have a nuclear war." I kind of have a feeling that perhaps the Biden team stepped over the line and freaked out some really, really powerful people. And these really powerful people got together and said, "To hell with this. We don't mind going around the world stealing all kind of stuff and oppressing our people and stuff like that. Hey, we're all for that. But you stepped over the line now. They're supposed to die, not us." I feel like, and think about this. One night, we're in the weekend, and Biden's like, "We must go to war with China. We must stop Taiwan, Russia, Putin, fire more missiles into Ukraine." And we're like, Jesus, yeah, what the hell? This guy's mad, a madman. We're going to die in a nuclear war. And then Monday, Trump goes in and he's like, "Hey, I'm calling China. Hey, Xi, what's happening, dude? Hey, we're going to make peace in the world. All right, I'm out. Putin, hey, great to talk to you, old buddy. Peace I'm all for peace." Yeah, I feel like very, very, very powerful people. I have often talked about it. People don't understand this. There are various factions of the ruling elite. Like during feudalism, various families of nobilities would fight it out, right? Yeah. That there's factions. Clearly, the tech bro is a different faction of the ruling elite than, say, the people that run ExxonMobil or Wall Street. These are all factions of the ruling elite, but they battle it out, right? I feel like the tech bros came in, that faction of the ruling elite, and said, "We got unlimited money. We got to stop this crap. We're going to do things differently." I'm not saying it's going to be good, but I find it hard to believe that a president would be able to reverse course just like that. And let me add you this. So Trump comes in and he says, "I'm calling Putin." I haven't heard anything from Congress members saying, "Don't do it. He can't do that." Not really. How about China? He calls the Xi. 1 minute we've got to sail through the Taiwan Straits every 5 minutes and piss the Chinese off. Spy planes flying all around the edge of China. We're building bases in the Philippines. We got to go to war with China. And the next day he's calling them saying, "Hey, let's chill out, China. Let's be friends." I just have a feeling that very, very powerful people decided we need to go in a different direction. Yeah, and that we may not know what their scheme is. But I think the Biden team scared the bejesus out of them. And I'll put it like this. Over the course of history, you see various power factions will go into ascendancy. And this particular group will be in power in Washington, D.C. for 20 years or 30 years. And then that group, it may be the oil people being, the Wall Street people, they'll be in. And I think the neocon group, that their time of ascendancy is gone. And now that the tech bros have ascended, and that they're going to be the ones that guide the ship for a while. Because we don't guide the ship, right? It's a pirate ship for certain. It's not a luxury liner. It's a pirate ship, but we don't get to guide it. But I just feel like there's a different faction of the ruling elite. And you can see them. It's the tech bros. It was right in front of our face.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think you're onto something there, Garland. It's the people behind the scenes that they're big game of chess. And I think people say that Trump is playing a 6D chess at this. They keep upping the number. He's playing 3D, now 4D, now 5D, now 6D. But at the end of the day, I do think you're right. There's the people behind the scenes that have to then, pick and choose their battles, cut their losses, and then come up with a new game plan, and using Trump as that vehicle for that game plan. And we can't possibly know all of it right now. So we're just going to have to keep looking at it and move forward. But I want to bring up this NATO thing.
Can I say one last thing about that? One last quick thing, and then you can bring that up.
Yeah.
And I think that China probably had this DeepSeek thing for a while. Come on, a couple of weeks after Trump comes to power, and what has it been, a week? And they released this DeepSeek thing that just blows away everything in tech. I think it was a power move by them. I think they had it. And they waited to Trump to they weren't going to do it during the Biden administration. They waited till the new president came in. They played a power move. Wham, we want you to show. And think about this. Trump comes in and he's got the tech bros all around him. So China can, and they knew it. They knew it. Everything that was going to happen. Okay. And then they released this a week and a half after Trump takes power. It was a power move. It was to let the tech bros know. No, look, guys, we understand that there's a new sheriff in town and you guys are ruling things, but we want to let you know we're big players here. You're going to have to deal with us. You're not going to be able to run over us and stomp us around. We are players in this game and power players. So I think that DeepSeek thing was a power move, kind of not a punch to the gut, but a little bit of elbow to the tech bros, just to remind them, we're here, man. Don't forget how much power we got. A bargain with us, work with us. Don't do like the Biden administration and try to run over us. What do you think?
I think you're right. It's a power move. And you got a big summer blockbuster. You release it in the summer. You don't release it in January, right?
A week after Trump comes to power, that ain't an accident.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's exactly.
Timing. It's everything. I'm throwing this comment up because this is I wanted to just mention the NATO part of things. Wishigo says NATO, as we all agree, should have been abolished in the early 90s. Thank you for that, Wishigo. And we all agree on that. The question is, does Trump agree on that? And your friend Scott Ritter, I'd love to have him on one time. That would be great. He's always so thoughtful about his critique, and he definitely calls out Trump when he needs to be called out, and then he champions him when he does something right. I do believe that Scott Ritter thinks that Trump fully believes that NATO needs to be dissolved immediately. If that's the case, I hope it's the case. Is this a step in that direction? Let's hear a clip. Just a little bit of Scott Ritter's take on what's happening now since that audit, that he's asking for this audit on Ukraine, and if this is actually the end of NATO. Are we heading in that direction? Let's hear his take, and then I want your thoughts.
I just told you he changed the game. Now, why is it crazy? Expansion compared to what? I'm not defending what Trump's doing. I'm not. I'm actually condemning this. But I'm just trying to say that you said, is Trump's election a game changer? Yeah. Yes, the game is completely different. We are now going to be expanding. We're going to be seizing Greenland. We're going to be seizing the Panama Canal. We're going to be creating Fortress America. That's Trump's vision. And in order to make Fortress America, we have to disengage from, regions that have caused us nothing but problems. Trump doesn't want to be part of NATO anymore because NATO is a useless entity that only brings us harm and embarrassment. NATO costs us money that we don't need to be spending. And Trump believes that Russia is not a threat to Europe. Europe is a threat to Russia. And that the best way to equalize this and bring it in is to bring it into the conflict in Ukraine. Trump, you remember, he went from, I'm going to solve this with one phone call before the election. You remember he said that back in, I think, September. I could just pick up the phone and the war is going to end. And the Russians have told him that's not going to happen. Trump now says, I believe I can get this war over in 6 months. That's realistic. To have 6 months to work with the Russians, to put NATO in its place. See, people think that Trump's going to come in and prop NATO up as a loaded gun pointing at Russia, telling the Russians, if you don't stop this conflict, NATO is going to intervene. That's not what Trump's going to do. Trump's going to come in and tell NATO, you're finished. You're done.
You're done. NATO, you're done. So he's all in on this. I want to believe this is true, but I want your critique on this, Garland, because you know Scott very well. And I want to know, is this a step to ending NATO? Is this going to happen?
Yeah, here's my thoughts. As I said, I think we're in a different time, right? I think there's more realistic. The tech bros are more realistic, right? First of all, they don't want war with China. Why? Because they all got infrastructure in China. They're building Teslas and stuff like that and iPhones and stuff in China. The last thing they want is a war with China to blow up their infrastructure. They're making a fortune on China. So they don't want to blow up China. That's out. One of the things, here's a breadcrumb. Here's what's a giveaway. Trump, just before I got elected, said, I want to have a meeting with Putin and Xi. And we need to have a great power meeting. Right. And Trump talked to Putin and Putin called Xi immediately and said, and now the readout said that Putin related what was said in the conversation with Trump or whatever. Right. OK, here's my point. Or whether whoever Trump's people might have talked with the Russians, whatever. Putin's like, here's what the Americans are saying. I have a feeling, and I've heard this, that perhaps what the Americans were saying with Putin was, talk to Xi for us. They don't trust us. Nobody trusts us. You don't talk to Xi. But Biden's gone. We need to have a talk. I think the tech bro power move now is the world's different. Why don't we talk to Putin, talk to Xi and say, look, we ain't going to screw around with you in your area of the woods. Xi, whatever, Taiwan, Straits of whatever the hell, they're yours. And our area will have the Panama Canal and Greenland. We'll expand in our region. We'll control our region. We won't screw with your region. We won't screw with yours. Hey, everybody's got to eat. Like the gangs of New York. You know what I mean? The five families, the Genovese and the Bonanos and blah, blah. Hey, we got this segment. You got that segment. Because let's face it, international politics is organized crime, right? Everybody takes their segment. If I'm going to come into your segment, I'm going to clear it through you first. NATO's the problem for the U.S. It's a pain in the neck. I think Trump hates the EU ruling elite, and clearly Musk hates their guts. The tech bros hate him. They hate these people. They don't like Zelensky. And so it's not just that they want out of NATO. I think they personally hate the Starmers and the von der Leyens and people like that. And with Trump, if you hate your guts, that ain't going to work out well for you if he has the opportunity. What his one book, I think he wrote, Take Note of Those Who Betrayed You. And Starmer sent a bunch of people over. Yeah. Trump's coming. Him. He's the vindictive bastard. Yeah. And when it comes to Starmer, I'm glad of that. But my point being, so I think they want to, the only thing they want Europe for is to sell them something. Can we sell them liquefied natural gas or something? To hell with Europe. They're a pain in the neck. Go on and do your own thing, Europe. And interestingly now, there was this interesting kind of conversation going on between Trump people and the Russians, right? Because Trump comes out and now there's a discussion. Hey, we're going to cut their money. We're going to cut off Ukraine's arms. And then there's this discussion. Did they cut them off? Did they not cut them off? Nobody's really sure. It looks
we're
like
not sure,
but we're not sure. Okay. The Russians just came out, I think it was today, and said, this thing could be over in like 6 weeks. If you cut their munitions off, right? So they're playing off of that. You know what I mean? They're like, it's in a way, it's like a message to Trump. Trump, I know you want to be done with this thing, right? I know you want it over quick for a number of reasons. Cut off their arms. And the Russians also came out today and say, we're putting together a team and we're ready to negotiate, and we'll negotiate with Zelensky, but he can't sign it because he's not legitimate. So the Russians are now, they know Trump wants out. And he's got bigger fish to fry in other areas. And so the Russians, reading the tea leaves from the Trump people, are now saying, look, you want out? Here's your options. We'll do this, we'll do that. We got a team ready. Cut their loot off. We're ready to talk. And we'll get this thing done in a few weeks. And they literally said it could be done in a couple of weeks, which I think is all good. I don't want people to die in a war, period. I'm opposed to any war anywhere, and I want to see it stop. So there's good things happening. I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm to the left, far to the left of both of these parties. But you've probably heard me say this. And Frederick Douglass says, I will join any man for good and no man for evil. And if Trump does something that I approve of, I'm going to stand up and clap and say, good work, Trump. I hope he goes and talks to Kim Jong-un and gets peace on the peninsula of Korea. Good work, Trump. If he does something I don't like, I'll say, hey, that's screwy. I'll be the first guy out in the street marching against it. And I think that's logical way to address politics.
It's totally logical. We need more people doing that. And I cut that clip off early because I'm sick and tired of seeing the same stuff we see from anybody like you, me, Scott Ritter, anybody who's willing to go case by case with the people in charge, with Trump, and say, this is where he gets something right, this is where he gets something wrong. People aren't used to that. And that podcaster literally asks him, and this is why I cut the clip off, because I'm sick of this question. I know we're all sick of this question. So are you then a major Trump supporter, or why are you supporting him? Because I'm not how many times we have to say, we're talking about the thing he got right. Why do we have to qualify every time, whether we are a supporter of someone or not? I'm sick of being a supporter of anyone. We're just using our critical thinking skills and looking at everything case by case. You give people credit when they deserve credit. You call them out when they don't. And that can be people you like and people you hate. In fact, it's more important to call people out that got something right that you hate. That's more important because that actually has more weight. But yeah, I'm just sick of that line of questions.
But these people are so irrational. I had a caller on my Pacifica show in DC say, I think you're a Trump supporter. I said, how long have you been listening to my show?
Yeah.
Oh, for years. I said, well, so then I don't support Trump. He says, yeah. I said, so you consider me a Trump supporter that doesn't actually support Trump? Yes. I said, okay, well, what else? Because I just felt like this. The listeners of this radio show all heard that. I don't have to comment on it. Anybody who heard that's going to go, a Trump supporter who doesn't support Trump, that's what's with this guy. But I just went on and asked him something else. I'm like, fine.
Yeah. 100%.
Look, what's the old saying? WIIFM, right? What's in it for me? It's politics, isn't it?
I love it. Garland Nixon, thank you so much for being with us today on The Homeless Left. Always appreciate your conversations. We know people can check you out. Your show's on pretty much all the time. On if they want to get more thoughtful commentary from you on all the world happenings, they can follow you. Is it Garland Nixon? You're the Garland Nixon Show on YouTube. Is that the main one? And you're also on Rumble and all the other stuff.
I'm also on Rumble and Rockfin. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Garland. Again, take care.
Hey, look, and we need to talk. I got to get you back on soon too.
Yes, I would love to come back on. Absolutely. Let's do it. Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot. Talk to you soon. I'll send you an email or something so we can figure out what day this week. I'd like to try to do it, every week. It's great.
I'd love to be. Yeah, that sounds great. I love it.
Oh,
thank you.
All right. Sounds good. Talk to you soon.
We'll set up. Okay. Thanks.
Bye.
Garland Nixon, everybody. All right. We're winding down the show. I'm going to do one more segment because we had it up in the opening. It's very fun one. Fun is, we'll call it a palate cleanser before we end the show. We're going to do a This Week in HOLLYWOKE. We're going to cover the Selena Gomez story before we check out of here. Appreciate everybody coming in on this. You know what? Let's do a couple of the comments. We don't have Leslie today for talking back, so I'm just going to read a couple of them that we missed. I'll start with this one. This is funny because this was one of the earlier comments from All Sentient Beings. Selena crying over immigration stuff. I cried too. It's so upsetting. She's crying for sure. But we're going to show a little bit of that hypocrisy in the next segment of why it's okay to cry, but why are you so selective with your tears? So we'll get to that later, All Sentient Beings, for sure, on our last segment. Let's see. We have, this is good. I Care 22. Matt, contact Jimmy Dore for a spot on his show. We do have a relationship with Jimmy Dore, and we will hopefully get that to happen. When the time is right, we might see that happen. We have established a relationship with him actually before we even started the Homeless Left, because we are here in LA with Jimmy, and we've done some events together and some things throughout actually during the COVID years before we started the Homeless Left. So we'll figure that out. But that's a good idea. Love to do it, and I'll certainly let you guys know when we get the Jimmy interview. Primarily me going on his show, but he can come on ours too. We'll figure it out when the time is right. Let's see what else. And then another one from I Care 22. Yes, not safe from you, Bass. That's right. Karen Bass, our mayor here in LA, not safe at all. Thank you for that. Leslie, yes, Kamala might replace Newsom. I've heard rumors. It's true. We've heard the rumors that Kamala might be taking his spot. Somebody has to take his spot. He's done, actually. He cannot run again at the end of 2026. So there is going to be, just this little, I guess we're just in this last year and a half before that election, a year and change. But it might just be Kamala who can just walk right in. She doesn't even have to campaign. She's got all her California support. Very lame, very lame. This one, 15-minute cities are real. Opossum King, thank you for that. They are real. You can call them what you want. Call them smart cities. Whatever. We got to look out for our carbon footprint, everyone. Do your part. We're all in this together. We're all in this together, I'm talking about the people and the peasants, not the elite. They're not in it together. We know that phrase was coined for you people are all in it together, not us. That's how that goes. Thank you for that. Yeah, this one's funny, Leslie. Aha. CNN along with the other mainstream media are not friends of the people. Absolutely true. They are not our friends. That's why we're here. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the fact that they're so bad. They're so bad at their job. This is why we have to do what we do. This is why we're doing the show. This is it. Let's see what else. A couple more of these. I can't get to everything, actually. I don't think we have time to go through everything, but hold on. Oh, Jay chimed in on this. This was a good one. I'm sorry I didn't get this up earlier, Jay. We had a great discussion earlier, but with Garland, we were talking about how Trump is insinuating that the Palestinians can just go into Egypt and Jordan. That'll be great because it's such a horrible thing that we did to them in Gaza. We might as well give them. I'm sure that Egypt and would take them in, Egypt and Jordan. The problem is, and it's a great point, Jay, Egypt must know they're in line on Trump's chopping block. The Greater Israel Project includes parts of Egypt and Jordan. It's very, very true. I don't know if I have that slide with me today. I don't know if I have it. Oh man, I don't have it here. It shows you there's actually a map of Greater Israel. There's actually a map of Greater Israel. It's pretty concerning. It's really bad, guys. If you haven't seen it, it's basically this all the 7 countries around Israel. They just want to take the entire area, and that's what we've been facilitating for the past 78 years. That's what we've been facilitating specifically since 9/11. It's go into all these countries and shake them all up. Assassinate leaders, assassinate Gaddafi in Libya, get Assad out of Syria. We just saw that happen. That was a 12-day deal. It went down in 12 days. Annihilate the Palestinian people, invade Lebanon, pretend it's because of Hezbollah, and that, they're using human shields just like Hamas, and just keep annihilating them and blowing up their houses and their infrastructure, taking out the West Bank. But yes, Jay, Egypt and Jordan are also on that chopping block. Parts of them, not the whole country, but parts of Egypt and Jordan. So I suggest you guys look up the map of Greater Israel and see. If you haven't seen it, you will be stunned, because they're saying this shit out loud now. They're like, Netanyahu is saying the quiet part out loud about how we have to, take Greater Israel. Anyways, couple more. There is a $3 trillion spending freeze in place right now. Definitely. Thank you for that, Opossum King. Very, very sure about that. That's true. That's true. Let's see. Anything else here? I might get to some of you guys' more later before we go out. Oh, we got ChatterX. This is great. Thank you, ChatterX. Long time listener, first time caller. No, you're a long time viewer and a regular commentator. ChatterX, appreciate it. The real debate on mass media happens only when competing factions of the ruling class try to mobilize the working class on their side. Thanks for that, ChatterX. Very much so. Okay, we're gonna go on to our final segment today. Let me set it up here very quick. I didn't have a chance to set this up earlier, but this is our Selena Gomez story. And I know we have some fans. Leslie, I know you're a fan of Selena. We actually had a chance to meet her at an event very recently. Actually, it was that movie. It's actually a pretty good film, guys. I got to tell you, it's actually a really good film. If you have a chance to check out Emilia Perez. Great film. If you want to see a good film it's kind of a musical, but it's actually good. See that. Do not see Wicked. Don't even think about seeing Wicked. See Emilia Perez. It's actually a great film. Just throwing in my commentary on the side here. Okay, I think we got the segment set up. Real quick here. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm doing all the tech today. We don't have Jamie here. We don't have Craig. Actually, I'll give you guys a little announcement. If you weren't aware, well, I don't know how you would be aware. This is a new idea. Thursday, we're going to have Craig Pasta Jardula hosting the show for us. I think he might be having a co-host, Jose Vega. This is coming up on Thursday. I won't be in the home studio. I will be on the ground at the Menendez trial here in Van Nuys, or Van Nuys is in LA. So we'll be at the Menendez trial, covering the Menendez trial. I'll be reporting to you guys live on the show with up-to-date info that you're gonna get first here during the show, because we'll be in the courtroom covering the Menendez trial on Thursday. Craig Pasta Jardula will be holding things down in the driver's seat for you guys. And hopefully, I think Jose Vega might be joining us as well, which will be awesome. So that'll be Thursday. Now that those announcements are done, it's time for This Week in Hollywood. Okay, let's do it. Here we go. All right, it's time for another segment of This Week in HOLLYWOKE. HOLLYWOKE being the place where we just have constant theater on the screen, on the stage, real life. It don't matter. Everybody here is a puppet, and they're a puppet to the establishment, and they do what they got to do to make their paycheck and to pretend to emote and cry and get in line and shut up and wear your mask, all this stuff. This is where we came up with HOLLYWOKE. This is why we do the show, The Homeless Left, because we're sick and tired of the HOLLYWOKE mindset, the woke culture. We're done with it. But we do like good movies still. There just aren't good ones. There's just not that great movies these days. But I will plug Emilia Perez is a great film. You should see it. Selena Gomez is actually a pretty good actress. If you haven't seen her act. Problem is, she went viral. She's crying for the immigrants. Sounds like she's got compassion. Interesting though that Selena Gomez has compassion now. Okay, well, let's see that. If you guys haven't seen the viral video, this is Selena Gomez crying about Trump's immigration policy, going around and deporting illegal immigrants, undocumented workers, who, I have to be very clear, his policy is deporting the criminals, the ones who've committed crimes, not just coming in illegally, but having a criminal record. That's who's being deported right now. Those with a criminal record. I want to be very clear. So understand that. I don't know if she understands it fully. I know it's easy to fall for it, that the ICE is coming in and taking babies out of their beds and doing horrible stuff like the IDF does in Palestine, things like that, which I'm sure Selena is just as upset about over there. But let's see her reaction to Trump and his new immigration policy of deporting violent and convicted criminals, illegals in this country. Let's see.
Just want to say that I'm so sorry. All my people are getting attacked. The children. They don't understand. I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something, but I can't. I don't know what to do. I'll try everything, I promise.
You wish there was something you could do. You're sorry. Well, you were given the green light that this was okay to cry about. That's why you're doing it. You were given the green light by your agent, your management. This is okay, Selena. This is the thing you can be upset about, because this will score you points in our industry to hate Trump. Trump is the unique evil. Trump is the guy doing horrible things to children. Although you didn't say anything about all the disappearing children at the border during Biden's administration, all the ones picked up with the human sex trafficking, the child trafficking, they're just missing. You didn't really care about that when it was happening with Biden. You don't care when they get deported when it's Biden. You don't care when they get deported when it's Obama. We're going to get to Obama in a second, but let's see what Hotspot says about this. Selena Gomez has tears for children, immigrants, but none for the children of Gaza. Oh, I wonder why. Apparently it's not okay to show empathy for people. Apparently not. Interesting. And then PVT says, reminder, Selena Gomez is a Zionist. Now, we didn't know. I looked into it. She's a Zionist by affiliation. So there is an affiliation. We're going to get to that in a second. So Selena Gomez is a Zionist who is best friends with numerous Hasbara mouthpieces. When cornered to make a statement about Gaza after she was caught liking pro-Israel posts, she had a tantrum online and announced a social media break. That's because Selena Gomez is a coward. And I say that it's sad. Like, I almost feel bad for her, what a coward she is, because her career is the most important thing to her. As we could tell when we met her in Hollywood at the Amelia Perez event, her career is everything. It's way more important than any movement for people. Again, she's crying for children at the border because, and it's not children. This is not actually who Trump is deporting. He's deporting, again, I'll say it again. Trump is deporting people with criminal records that are undocumented. We can call them illegals, call them whatever you want, but that's who he's targeting right now. There's no children being picked up out of their crib, no babies being picked out of their crib and taken over the border in the middle of the night. You know who is getting taken out of their crib in the middle of the night? Gaza children, Palestinians. They're getting bombed. They're getting targeted. They're getting sniped in the back of their skull, dead. And I don't see any tears from Selena there. So who are the people that Selena Gomez is championing? Who is she best friends with? One of her best friends is this piece of crap, Deborah Messing. Selena Gomez has been known to like and champion all of Deborah Messing's engagement when she represents the IDF. And this is Deborah Messing, and this is Selena Gomez championing this message. We will pray for the success of the IDF, for a war Israel did not start, did not want, but a war Israel will win because we must. This is Deborah Messing, and that's her smirk ass face, ready to kill some Palestinian babies. She's ready to fire. Show me where to aim. Show me the back of the skull of the baby I'm going to murder. I'm ready to go into battle with you, IDF, because you're the good guys, taking out the terrorists, taking out the less than humans. Selena, that's not Selena Gomez doing it. That's Deborah Messing, but that's your friend, and you have a history of liking her posts and hanging out with her regularly. So don't tell us that this is somebody that you dislike for doing this. You are okay with it. You might know deep down inside it's wrong, but you're okay with it on the outside because your management and your career, all that shit is important to you, Selena. But okay, let's put Palestine aside. How about this, Selena Gomez? Where were you in 2011, 2014, when Obama gave this speech? And for those of you who don't know, Obama said this. Why did he say this about immigration? Why did he say this about deportation? Because every U.S. president says this. Obama actually was very good at saying it. You remember him. Look into the camera. Listen to this clip, and I want you guys to imagine Donald Trump saying the same words. It's interchangeable. Either one of them can say it. That's the game, guys. That's the game. We're exposing the effing game. Don't have memory holds on stuff. Remember that this shit happened. The internet exists. This shit ain't going anywhere. Obama actually said this, and nobody batted an eye.
If you're a criminal, you'll be deported. If you plan to enter the U.S. illegally, your chances of getting caught and sent back just went up. The actions I'm taking are not only lawful, they're the kinds of actions taken by every single Republican president and every single Democratic president for the past half century.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong. Where were you, Selena Gomez, when Obama was saying this? Huh? Where were your tears? Where are your tears for the Palestinian people? You also have a very privileged life, Selena. You actually were born in Texas. So this, my people. Okay. I don't think you know what you're doing. I think you got a green light from your management that you're allowed to cry about this. And I actually think those are real tears. I think that it's loaded. I think those are tears about the things she's allowed to do and not allowed to do. And this was an opportunity she could let it out. So those tears are probably, I'm actually going to give her the benefit of the doubt and pretend for her sake that those tears were bottled up because she wasn't allowed to cry about Palestinian children. She wasn't allowed to cry when she could clearly see that Obama and Biden, who deported way more people than Trump ever did, by the way, way more people. So I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. Those were bottled up because she's a controlled person in HOLLYWOKE. Her career is very important to her. And if she dares to defy HOLLYWOKE, she will be made an example out of, just like Susan Sarandon, who lost her CAA agency because she actually was in the streets for Palestine. She actually was fighting for the rights of people who can't fight for themselves, fighting for children, fighting for women, fighting for innocent civilians that are being murdered by our taxpayer money, by the Biden administration. And now we can be concerned that Trump wants to turn Gaza into a real estate condo, whatever he wants to do for BlackRock. Now we're concerned. Okay, great. Now we're paying attention. Fine. But don't just pick and choose when you're going to cry because your manager told you it was okay, Selena, because that's just being HOLLYWOKE. Be real. Be like Susan Sarandon. Be real. Okay? And then we can get out in the street together. All right? Come on. Okay. That's it for this week in HOLLYWOKE. I think that should do it for today. Okay. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today on The Homeless Left. Thank you to Jay Scott and for Garland Nixon. We had some amazing discussions with you guys. If you want to throw up any more comments, I'll try to get them out on our outro. And a reminder, on Thursday, when we're back here on Thursday, Craig Pasta Jardula will be hosting. He'll be in the driver's seat. And I will be on the ground in Van Nuys covering the Menendez trial, the retrial, live updates from the Van Nuys courthouse. We'll be trying to check in with you guys live with updates from that. And that should do it. We're going to leave you with a little Tyler Fisher comedy bit he did on the Selena Gomez story, which you got to admit, it's pretty funny. It's pretty funny. And it's punching up. You know, you got to punch up. If you're a comedian out there, you're looking to understand what good comedy is. Good comedy is punching up. Selena Gomez is a multimillionaire. So that constitutes punching up when you're going to do a joke about her. So this is a real funny one. We'll see you guys next time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that stuff. And I'm going to throw this up one more time because I think we have been getting a little more support on locals. So we do appreciate it. But you guys want to go to locals right from our Rumble channel, show us some support. Here's our burner channel, THL Presents on YouTube. And of course, we're here on Rumble and Twitter X at The Homeless Left. Thank you guys so much. And we will see you on Thursday. Take care.
Guys, I'm sorry.